Hey, AudioRoad listener, what is your profit per mile? How about your cost per mile? Or even your bottom line? Stop driving blind and know your numbers. Profit Gauges is absolutely simple bookkeeping specifically for owner-operators. Have instant access to business and tax reports that will help you increase your profits and keep your money in your pocket where it belongs. Sign up for Profit Gauges today and take advantage of our 30-day free trial. Know your numbers and master the journey. Visit our website at letstruck.com or call our Tribe Care Team at 855-800-FUEL. That's 855-800-3835.
Your money, your taxes, your truck, and your road to success in the trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning, you beautiful bunch of fuckers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Monday, December 9th. We are here live. We have a half hour this morning as a free-for-all, so we're going to open the phone lines right now. Jump in and join us, 855-950-3835. Looks like we might have some calls coming in already. We'll get to those here in just a minute. I have a couple things I want to talk about from the news. I just got back from a long weekend, which was kind of nice. Lisa and I went up north. We were just about a half mile from the Canadian border. Went up to see our son and grandkids. Our granddaughter turned 1, so we had a big party up there. It was a lot of fun. So we're back and ready to take on the week. So in a half hour, Brent Hutto from truckstop.com will be joining us, as well as Noel Perry. I'm going to talk to Noel about what he thinks is in our future. A lot of stuff going on. Rates have been changing. We're seeing some movement in what am I thinking of? The tender reject has been strong. That's one of the indications we've been watching. So I want to get Noel's take on where he thinks we are with this right now, and then maybe see if we can get some predictions about where we might be going in the first part of next year. And I also want to talk to him about tariffs, because there's a lot of confusion about the tariffs. I may even be confused as far as I know. I think I have a pretty decent handle on it, but we'll talk to Noel and find out what he thinks about them. Let's see. There were a couple things I did want to talk about. Another California truckload carrier filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Chapter 11 is a reorganization. They owe about $325 million to creditors. I was going to do some math on this. They've got 800 drivers, 800 trucks, and about 2,200 trailers. They also have 7 terminals. 7 terminals for 800 trucks. I don't know a lot about their business. Cal Freight, K-A-L. 7 terminals seems like a lot, unless they're doing some sort of distribution or LTL kind of stuff. They also added a truck and trailer sales business, as well as selling aftermarket parts. Now, here's the paragraph that got me. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the company invested heavily in trucks and trailers. Now, go back to during COVID, and what was I telling people? Don't buy this equipment. It is so overpriced. The second you sign that document, you have made a mistake that you can't fix. That's the problem with a mistake like this. It is next to impossible to fix when you are buying equipment at almost double what its true value should have been. See, that was a market anomaly. So it was only going to be like that for a very short period of time. That's why I told people, just wait. These are not the new prices of these trucks. This is an anomaly. It's going to go away. But the problem is, if you buy during that short-term price run-up, you are screwed. It is a mistake you can't fix. So this company invested heavily, is all it says. But I'm trying to figure out how you managed to be in $325 million in debt when you only have 800 trucks. I've got to go do some math, but doing the math in my head, that is way off. I don't know if they bought any of this real estate. It doesn't say, oh, no, it does say that. Their plans to reorganize, they're going to reorganize around the core trucking business and to wind down their non-core parts and tire businesses and liquidate certain real estate assets. So they also bought real estate at the top of the market. This is what I mean by you are never too big to be safe. Just because you can buy 800 tractors and 2,200 trailers and 7 terminals, and it doesn't mean you're too big to fail. In fact, it's the opposite. The bigger you get, the faster you grow like this, the more risk you put yourself at. It's funny when I talk with David Owen. David works in that market of small fleets who are trying to grow. And David has a saying that one of the fastest ways to fail in trucking is to grow too fast. And then he said the other way to fail with a fleet is to not grow fast enough. And there is some truth to that. This is a difficult business to manage. We do have big freight surges sometimes, and managing that growth is really difficult. I doubt very much that this company is going to make it out of Chapter 11. Chapter 11 allows you to reorganize all of your debt and try again. And they said they're using CalFreight intends to fund the Chapter 11 process with debtor in possession financing, which means the companies that they already owe a bunch of money to are going to try to make it a little easier for them to pay it back. I doubt very much that this company is going to survive. In fact, I would bet against them. I don't think they're going to make it. What else did I have here? Oh, this one. I was a little surprised by this one. I've talked about this before. There is a truck leasing task force that was supposed to be working on, what do we do with lease purchase programs in the trucking industry. I'm actually a little shocked by what they came up with. Here's what this task force. Now, I wasn't really wild about some of the people they put on this task force. There was no doubt that they were going to be very aggressive about these programs. I could tell by who was on the task force, but I didn't expect this. So here's what this task force has come up with. Congress should ban commercial motor vehicle lease purchase agreements as irredeemable tools of fraud and driver oppression that threaten a safe national transportation system and diminish the number of truck drivers attracted to and who stay in the trucking industry. The Truck Leasing Task Force draft report stated, such a prohibition would be the most efficient and effective remedy to stop the damage created by lease purchase programs. Total ban. I am almost never for a total ban of stuff by the government. Almost never. There's a lot of talk right now about banning pharmaceutical companies from advertising on TV. I have a hard time even getting behind that because I just don't like the government controlling business and enterprise. I would much rather see us focus on education so people would look at these lease purchase programs and understand how bad they are and just say on their oats, not no, but hell no. Why would I sign that horrible contract you're putting in front of me? If we educated people, they should be able to figure that out and make a decision on their own. And then you know what? Lease purchase programs would just disappear. They would just go away on their own if we could educate people. And do people get taken advantage of? Hell yes, they do. You're never going to be able to write enough laws to stop uneducated people from being taken advantage of. So why do we keep trying? Why don't we try educating people? Why don't we actually start having some business classes in high school where we teach contract and contract law? And I'm not saying we turn anybody into an attorney, but we could teach people what contracts are all about and just the fact that if you're going to sign a contract and you don't feel like you understand it completely, maybe you should hire an attorney. Why don't we educate people instead of turning the government into a nanny state that has to say, oh, no, look, people are being hurt by this. We have to ban this. I absolutely don't want to see that. They also came up with a second set of recommendations just in case just in case they don't ban these. Instead, what we would have is we would give more power over lease purchase programs to the FMCSA. Now, there's a huge problem with that. First of all, the FMCSA is not a business organization at all. It's a safety organization. Their entire focus is safety. They do a horrible job at safety. All we have to do is look at the history. We can go back and look at what our safety records were like before the FMCSA even existed and what a disaster they have been. And now we're going to give a failed safety organization power over a financial or business entity or decision. What a stupid idea. So I just really saw this morning. It's a new article out today. Actually, it's not. It's a couple days old. Um, I'm going to do some more digging into this. We'll see what happens. There's another issue here that we can be encouraged by. That is the fact that we might be able to just get rid of some of these organizations completely. Trump wants to really cut regulation, not add more. So that might really help with this. And we might just eliminate entire organizations here. So we'll see what happens with this. I am not for governments banning anything really when it comes to business and opportunity. I don't think there's anybody who has been screaming louder than I have for about 2.5 decades now about how bad these programs are. I wrote a book about how bad these programs are, but not once did I ever ask that we ban them. I am just not for that kind of government regulation. So we'll see. I'm going to do some more digging on this. The one interesting statistic, now, again, I've said this number too, but it was only a guess on my part. I saw it in this article and I thought maybe it was a little more accurate, but it also says the task force has estimated. Well, I did that too. Estimated that these agreements end in default 90% or more of the time. and that hundreds of thousands of truck drivers have been negatively affected. I agree with that. I've used that number myself, and I kind of estimated it myself. You can't find data on this number because there's no requirement for these carriers to keep those numbers. And I don't want a requirement. I don't. If you don't have a statistic, then just deal with it. Business is risky. The answer is not more government regulation. It's more good education. That's what will fix things like this. So maybe with the incoming administration, we might be able to turn the tide on some of these things, because I don't want to see them banned. I really don't. What else? I think that's all. I'm going to grab a couple calls here. Let's go to South Carolina. Bill, welcome to the program.
How was your weekend, Kevin?
It was wonderful. I got to spend it with my grandkids.
Hey, that's the important thing. Hey, I sent in an oil sample.
All right,
You know,
let's take a look
showed,
here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, go ahead and tell me what you want to tell me while I'm looking.
Okay, I noticed the base was low. I added like 1.5 gallons because I changed out both filters.
Okay.
And I was looking through it. I noticed the iron was just a tad bit high, but that's probably normal because I run the catalyst.
That is normal then.
I always knew that you said that if silicon gets to 10 to change it, but I know it's got a lot of miles on the oil versus the silicon. What is your opinion on that?
So,
because everything else looks good.
Everything else is perfect, and I'm not worried about the silicon. And here's why.
Okay.
I'm not seeing any real increase in the other maybe a little. Now, that can't be coming from the silicon, though. How many miles are on this engine total? 600,000 almost?
Yes.
We've got 95.
And about 90-some thousand.
95,000 on the oil. The silicon's at 9, and it's been a slow climb. If we go back on the history of this oil, you basically had a 5, a 5, a 7, a 7, and a 9. So dirt, which is what silicon is, can build up over time. Do you work in a dirty environment?
No.
Okay.
Once in a while, I'll go to a construction site to make a delivery, but that's far and few between.
Yeah. I'd
be driving on these highways because they're doing a lot of this damn construction, and it just kicks dirt up all over the place.
That may be some of what's going on. Let's go one more sample. I will say this, though. If the trend continues that it's been going up slowly, I'll still keep the rule in place. If you break 10, let's get the oil out of there and see if we can figure out why.
Okay.
So you're at 9.
I kind of figured that's what you were.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Yeah. You're at 9, and our number 10 it's safe. It doesn't mean that just because you went to 10 or 11, we're going to wipe out cylinder liners or something. That's not going to happen. We can break this number a little bit because it's a really safe number. Now, when you get up to 20 plus, you're going to start seeing some significant wear metals. So we like to stay under 10. 10 to 20 is kind of a buffer zone. If we bump up in there a little bit, I'm not going to get worried about it. So I would say let's go one more sample and see what happens.
All right. I appreciate it.
All right. You're welcome. Thanks for the call. Yeah, if it stays under 10, we'll just go again. I mean, if it goes over 10, then I would say that's the time to get it out. But if it comes back as a 9, then I would go one more sample again because the rest of the oil looks really good. Let's go to Nevada. Ron, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. Great show today. Last night on Breitbart News Sunday, you got mentioned that you were kicked off the XM the guy that called in did a really good job. He sounds like he listens to you all the time. Maybe he'll call in
Really?
and
That's
tell you
kind of
about it.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Kevin Rutherford, they mentioned, and it was a great call. It was to Joel Pollack. Joel Pollack he's the best for Sunday night. But anyway, I also got my new issue of Landline Now, the January issue, and OIDA and Truck Stop is back on the back cover. You want me to do a live read?
Why?
Just to do it. You do the Truck Stop. It's a live read. It's free advertising from the guy in Las Vegas, Chinatown band guy.
All right, go ahead.
You sound a little apprehensive.
Well, I just
Okay, I'll do
go
it.
ahead. It's fine.
Hey, I'm a lifetime member of OIDA. I've been talking about OIDA for 20 years.
Well, there you go.
And now more than ever, trust matters in freight. OIDA officially endorses the Truck Stop Load Board for its carrier-first technology and enhanced security features, announcing a partnership driven by trust. OIDA plus Truck Stop. OIDA's 50 years of advocacy on behalf of owner-operators, coupled with Truck Stop's 3 decades of delivering carrier-first business solutions, fraud-fighting technologies, and to owner-operators that depend on trust in business. There it goes.
Well, that sounds good.
Okay. Well, good. Hey, you know what? If you liked it, I get this magazine every month. And if you put an ad on it, I'll call it into your show and read it.
If we put an ad on there,
But
we don't advertise.
no, well,
never have.
Truck Stop. Well, Truck
Oh.
Stop.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
Truck Stop. Yeah.
No, Truck Stop will
that's
be.
why
Yeah, Truck Stop will
that's
be
why I'm
working on
calling
this
it in.
moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Truck Stop today on the radio, right?
Yeah, it is.
See how that fits together. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Hey, good talking to you.
All right. Good talking to you. Thanks for the call. All right, we had a bunch of calls there. We have got just a couple of minutes. I see Noel is in the house, but he needs a minute or so. I can't imagine Brent being in here any time before right at 8:30, but we'll see. When we get Noel in here, if he can sneak in a couple minutes early before Brent, maybe we'll get him in and we'll talk about tariffs before Brent gets here and we start talking about the market. One of the things that I'm just going to be spending a lot of time on here in the next, well, I would venture to say at least 6 months, is if all of the changes occur that could potentially occur with this new administration, there's a lot to figure out and keep track of. One of the issues I have not talked about much at all in the last several years is the Trump tax cuts from 2017. I think they came out in December of 2017. I mentioned the fact that for small businesses, owner operators and small fleets, the Trump tax cuts may have been the best tax law changes for small fleets and owner operators than any other tax proposals or regulations, better than anything we've had. The 20% business I forget what they called that thing even. That was a big deal. It was a really big deal. Um, I will say, and I said it many, many times, the drivers got screwed a little bit in the program. In fact, speaking of OIDA, I see OIDA now is asking. There's a bill that they want to bring back the deductions for employee business expenses. Drivers got screwed with the per diem change that you could employees all employees, not just truck drivers, all employees could no longer take business expenses or employee expenses, work expenses as a deduction. Yeah, and for drivers, that was a big hit because of per diem being such a big deduction. There was a really, really good solution on the table, and unfortunately, not enough fleets took advantage of it. It is really simple to set up a per diem pay program, a per diem reimbursement program, and then the drivers would have been able to double dip on this. Employee drivers who also have the per diem program get a double standard deduction under Trump's plan and their per diem tax-free on top of it. We don't need to go back and screw with the tax bill again and try to bring back per diem just for drivers. And it's overcomplicating things when as an industry we could solve this ourselves. It seems to me like all we ever do anymore when we encounter some sort of a problem or something we don't like, there seems to be this tendency to immediately go to the government to come up with some sort of a solution. We could solve this one really. It was already solved. All we have to do is educate the rest of the industry on how easy this would have been, and we don't have to go back and overcomplicate the tax code again. All right, I'm going to bring Noel in a little early because I think he's ready for us. Noel, good morning.
Hi,
Are you ready for us?
I sure am.
We don't need to wait for Brent, do we?
No, I don't think he's going to be on.
Okay, that'll work too. We'll just get started.
Yeah, either way.
We'll see what happens. But just
Yeah.
in case Brent is coming in, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, we could do it before or after we talk about, what we think might be happening. There's a lot going on, a lot of things we could talk about or speculate about or think about. Can you give us like a short class on tariffs in the way they're being presented right now? I'll kind of give my opinion on what I think I might be seeing, but correct me if I'm wrong for sure. It seems to me like the way the tariffs are being approached is not because Trump thinks it's the correct economic tool for right now. It seems to me like he's using it to correct imbalances or other issues politically. Not necessarily saying this tariff makes sense economically. It's just we have this trade imbalance, or we have China subsidizing products and dumping them on our market. It seems on the border issue that he's using the tariff to punish them for a totally different political issue. Am I even close to being on track with this?
Yeah, I agree with most of what you just said. I'll make one qualification. And there's no evidence over Trump's entire political career that he has a profound understanding of economics.
Yeah.
What he has and why he is president is because he has a profound understanding of what his voters want. And his voters think that tariffs are a good deal. And therefore, he is saying, okay, that's got me elected. I have told you I will deliver what I promised. I'm going to get tariffs.
Okay.
Now, and so he will make, like any politician, by the way, a big effort, at least in terms of perception, that he has delivered on this promise, like he did last time with the tariffs he put on China. Now, having said that, and then we can dive into the economics. There's one very, very important qualification here. Yeah, and I'll give you a trucking example.
Okay.
Everybody complains, rightfully so, by the way, that the AB5 employment laws of California are a major error, bad economics, no question about it. However, the fleets that operate out there have already figured out a workaround. And so the effect of this whole thing is relatively small. It's an annoyance that slightly raises the cost of operating in California. It is not a go or no go thing. It's a pain in the butt inconvenience. Now, the same thing applied last time when he put those tariffs on China. We all know what the Chinese did. They stopped, at least nominally, assembling their products in China. They sent them out to Thailand, particularly to South Vietnam. I mean, excuse me, I'm showing my age, to Vietnam, and they came in from all these other countries full of Chinese content, but because they were what's the word? Because they were locally assembled,
Right.
there was no tariff.
Okay.
And so here's the test that we need to look at and it's a very, very simple test with respect to China. Now, and I'm not even going to, unless you want to, delve into the issue of Canada and Mexico.
Well,
but in order for these tariffs to have effect, they have to apply everywhere.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see
Because
what you're saying.
there's no
Right.
way that we can police. We can test every import we get to make sure it's out of China. Now, obviously, we can exempt oil if we want. We can exempt Brazilian beef and Mexican or South African oranges. But with respect to the stuff that everybody's worried about, the TVs and the computers and the clothing, it has to be across the board. It's a big deal if
That
he
is a big
actually
deal.
does it, and if the Congress agrees to it.
Yeah, that is a big deal. It's interesting because China has some other history around this that I'm more familiar with. China's been flooding our market with a lot of fake products. Honey was a big one. I don't know if they've gotten into the olive oil.
What do you mean by fake?
So we found out that the honey that was coming from China wasn't honey at all. It was a manufactured flavored syrup product. It was like corn syrup and other sweeteners that they managed to make it look and taste like honey. And they were flooding our market with it. And we figured it out. And we said, hey, you can't do this. And we started testing all their honey. Well, they simply started shipping their honey to other countries first and then shipping it here. And they got around to the same thing. We started figuring out that they were still sending fake honey to us. They were just routing it through proxies instead.
Well, I'm not going to argue about the negative aspects of that. However, we run a big trade deficit with China based on most of what we buy there is legitimate, like the Lenovo computer that I have open on my desk right now. And they're not flooding the United States with these products. They are offering superior products at a lower price than we can get locally, and so we buy them.
That makes sense.
I mean, that's the fact.
That makes sense.
Whether you like it or not, China, South Vietnam, German cars, in a lot of cases, in consumer goods that we're talking about here, the choice that we have on the open market is better than what we have locally. Now, that raises a whole bunch of other issues, but
Right.
let's not,
Right.
let's start with I mean, you're asking me, the economist, to talk about this, and you have to come back to the fact that we purchase Saudi Arabian oil because we don't have enough of our own, and we purchase, and I just purchased this new computer because Lenovo makes the best damn computer I can find. Now, then we can talk about what needs to happen for that to change.
Got it. Okay.
And let's talk tariffs for a minute, because that's what's, there's the belief that tariffs fix the problem.
Okay.
And if they are high enough and they are enforced properly, which is both are big, second, it's a big deal.
Okay.
If they're high enough and enforced, then 5 years from now, when I buy a new computer, I will be forced to buy an American computer that will, and I will pay another, 15, 20% more than I paid this time.
Right.
And so what that says is two things. It may incent American production. There's some argument about that, but there's some truth to it.
Okay.
It does not, however, incent American excellence. It does exactly the opposite.
Oh, really?
It says that RCA or Sony, or Sony's not American, Microsoft can put together a factory and produce this lovely little 2-in-1 I'm looking at right now, but they don't have to do it for $1,900. They have another $300 or $400 they can build into their cost structure, and they will.
Right.
And so the first effect of tariffs that we have to worry about is they end up, whether or not, whatever you say about manufacturing jobs, and by the way, they're less than 15% of the economy, but whatever you say about that, when you do a tariff and it works, you in essence put let's say it's a 10% tariff. He's talked about that. What you've done is you have a 10% tax on consumption.
Right.
Now, from a policy standpoint, putting aside for a moment efficiency, manufacturing efficiency, that may be a good thing because the United States is running this phenomenal deficit. And here's a way to impose a tax that people think is justified. If you said to anybody's voters right now, hey, the budget is we're spending more than we get. We need to raise taxes, and I'm going to put a tax on consumption for 10%. That would not keep you employed as a congressman very long.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But this one might work that way, and so there could be a backwards example.
Yeah.
A backwards thing. Now, very importantly, in the short term, the Congress would spend the money, of course, because we asked them to. And the other thing is, it will, let's just assume that there is a tax and that Microsoft responds by building a new plant in, let's put it in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, where I live.
Okay.
And it starts producing an acceptable 2-in-1 computer. How long will it take to design and build that plant and hire the people? Now, that may be a price you have to pay.
Right.
But it would take maybe 5 years before that stuff would hit the market?
You would think, yeah.
So what happens between now and then? What happens is we get a 10% increase. Well, if I have to buy a new computer, I'll buy another Lenovo because that's all
Right.
that's available, and I'll pay 10% more.
Okay.
So that translates into inflation. Tariffs are inherently inflation oriented
Okay.
because they
That makes sense.
explicitly try to raise the price of things.
Right.
Now, that may be good long-term national policy. But here is my point, and we can talk about immigration in the same way. If you started this session by saying, what would happen, what do we have to think about if Trump or the Congress, whomever you are talking about, it succeeds in doing the kinds of things that the Republican platform called for?
Right.
And by the way, some of the stuff that they called for, the Democrats called for too. So, this is more about the mismatch between what people want. You just said it. I have a problem. Government, fix it for me.
Right. Right.
And what we now have is a couple problems that we're asking the government to fix us for. And we know damn well, whatever party we have in the office, that they won't do a good job fixing it.
Right.
So here's my point. If Trump is successful, and I'll just use him as an example because it's easy to see because he's so spectacular. If Trump is successful in cutting cutting immigration back and deporting
Right.
12 million people, and he gets the tariffs that substantially affect imports, the second half of his term will be a absolute politically an economic disaster.
Uh-oh.
Because we will get recession and we will get high inflation. And thank goodness, the Federal Reserve has decided to be serious about inflation, and they'll raise interest rates a lot. I mean, for instance, if you look at the Economist newspaper or anything, I was on the road last week, and I go to this wonderful Italian restaurant, Sicilian restaurant, no less, about 10 miles from my house. Except that the guys working in the kitchen and all of the waitresses look a lot more Mexican than they do Sicilian. Where is my friend Mariela,
right,
who is Sicilian, going to find work?
Right.
Workers. Well, and in order to get the young from our culture to do that work, and this hasn't changed in 200 years of American history.
Right.
We always give the craft work to immigrants.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm sure your people did it, mine did, etc. In order to get American kids to work that hard, they're going to have to pay more.
Right.
So this is what's the word? We're not talking about low stakes economics here. We're talking about very difficult things. And let me back up and generalize. The fundamental issue there are two fundamental issues here. The manufacturing issue is simply that with the opening up of international markets, which has occurred over the last, 40 years, we've discovered that those high-paying manufacturing jobs, remember when the steel workers used to make so much money?
Oh, yeah.
And the auto workers
Yeah.
make so much money? Those jobs were created, in essence, by the monopoly power of the companies. The rest of the economy was working at far lower wages.
Right.
But those exceptions, because there was monopoly power, they work for better wages. Well, the opening up of the world has taken away that protection. GM is no longer a monopolist, and so they have to compete. And as consumers, we're way better off. For the people who lived in Detroit,
Not so
benefited from
much.
those wonderful wages. They're not.
Yeah, not so
So
much.
here's my point. We have to find a way to, and we are, by the way, but we have to find a way to build a more service-oriented economy that employs people. And by the way, is there a shortage or surplus of labor right now?
That's a good question.
There's a shortage. There's a shortage
Okay.
by all measures. Now,
Seems
the
like
other
it to
problem
me.
is a lot. That problem will solve itself. The problem that we haven't solved that gets to all of this is we are now spending a third of what we spend in federal programs, a third to include Medicare and Social Security, a third of what we're spending we're borrowing.
Ooh. Oh.
Now, I mean, you are the best consultant to a bunch of small entrepreneurs who fell on their heads and decided they want to drive a truck and sleep in it for a living.
Right. Right.
And those people, can you imagine how long they would last if they were spending $3 more than they were bringing in?
Well, I opened with I follow what's going on with carriers coming into the market, carriers going out of the market, trying to, keep track of the supply and demand there. So when I see companies going out of business, filing Chapter 11, I pay attention. And I saw one this morning right before I went on air, and I didn't have time to really dig, but the math here looks absolutely horrendous to me. This company grew aggressively during COVID because they could, right? There was so much demand, but this is an 800 truck fleet, and they are $325 million in debt.
I can, what's the word? Let's talk carrier economics a minute, and let's talk owner-operator economics. It's the same for the big guys because it's easy to see, and there's a parallel to the United States. So times were good, and people came in when they shouldn't have, or they came in hoping that they would be fortunate enough to get some good loads, and for 2 years they were making good money. Now, so let's say I was one of those people, and I bought myself a nice $125,000 used Peterbilt.
Yeah.
That is in good shape and can still run. Now the market collapsed. What do I do with it? I can't sell it because there's no demand for it.
Right.
And here's the economics. I'm an owner operator, and I happen to be married to a woman who has a job. Well, let's start thinking about the kinds of things I don't have to do in the short term and stay on the road.
Right.
I don't have to pay myself.
Right.
All I have to do is make enough money to buy food while I'm on the road. So what's that? 40% of the cost?
Yeah. Well, you know what else they don't have to pay, which is the one that ends up really getting.
Yeah. What else?
Taxes.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they're losing money. No taxes. You're right.
Or even if they might be making some profit, because if you're going to eat, you got to make a little bit of profit. There might even be tax owed, but the IRS is like the easiest lender in the world. That just don't pay your bill, and they don't do anything about it for years.
You don't pay it, right?
Right.
But even before that, let's be careful about because the IRS taxes income.
Right.
Now, you teach people how to put in their taxes at the end of the year.
Right.
Food is what? Food is an expense.
Yes.
And their salary is an expense.
Mm-hmm.
And so the profit that they have to declare is only what's left over after everything it takes to keep that truck running, to include, what is it, $60,000-$70,000 in salary.
Right.
So what's now that salary? Then they have to declare as a personal expense. I agree, but
Right.
but then they're clever. They know how to add up all the expenses it takes to live on the road. You got to get, the telephone, the
Oh yeah.
right. the shop, all that stuff, and so they end up only either in profit or in personal income declaring the last. It's not the 40% of the cost that you'd have to pay somebody. It's much less.
Right.
So, and do they have to pay what if they borrowed the money from Uncle Ed?
Yeah.
To buy the truck.
Right.
They don't have to pay it right now, do they?
Right.
What if they took out their IRA money to buy the truck?
Yep. Happens.
So, I mean, here's my point. We have somewhere around 1 million truckers out there that are hauling in the spot market. And by my calculations, they are somewhere around 15% below long-term survivability. And so you can imagine that a lot of them are going bankrupt, but the ones that are staying are just like the United States. They're in essence borrowing from the future, not fixing their truck, not putting money in for retirement, et cetera, in order to stay in. And they do it every time, by the way. This happens every downturn, and unfortunately, they only catch up in the booms.
Right.
And so when people say trucking is a hard business, it's because most of the time they're not really returning full return to investment. And so you can see, in the euphoria of 2021, how people could, get carried away and then end up dumping their assets on the market. But most of the fleets, by the way, haven't dumped. They're still trying to find some way to survive.
Yeah.
Fortunately
I was going to say much more
on
than
the
I thought
contract
would have.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the contract side, they can make a little bit of money now. So you get people like Werner who are complaining about the economy. They're not losing money; they're just disappointed. So this is what's the word? So now we're not talking politics; we're talking the trucking. But if you go back to the United States, we're in for a tough next 15 years because at some point this borrowing we've done is going to come home to roost. And and if you look at excuse my being pessimistic, but if you look at the geopolitical environment, heck, China's in worse shape than we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't show in the same ways, but they are. And what's happening in Syria right now? They dumped one dictator. Who are they going to replace him with? Is that going to be stable?
It doesn't look like it.
And France is the next weak country in Europe. So, and here's my point in bringing up this negativity. There's a lot of talk about. I'm critical of Trump as anybody else. However, all he's doing is what we, the voters, are asking him to do.
Right.
And what I can tell you without a doubt is we, the voters, are asking him to do something impossible. So, and I will give you three for instances. Two for instances. One of them is tax all those imports except for the ones that I buy.
Right.
That's one.
Right.
And the other one is close the borders and get rid of all these people who are sponging off of us, except the ones that are cleaning my garden.
Yes, of course.
That's what we're saying, lower my taxes and raise my benefits. And if somebody else has to pay more taxes and get less benefits, that's tough shit.
Well,
excuse my language. That's
well, come
that's
on.
what we're saying.
But we're only asking for the billionaires to pay more tax. Come on, right? I'm joking.
Well, okay. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, but that is what the Democrats are asking.
Right.
And there's no question that the billionaire finance right now is at the best from a tax standpoint, is a government standpoint, is at a peak.
Yeah.
I landed in Chattanooga the other day, and I counted 70 private jets. Who wants to fly to Chattanooga? A nice place, but I mean, however, if you break down where that spending is going, it's going to what both political parties call the middle class. We keep voting for benefits for us. Now, yes, the rich are extremely good lobbying, and they always get a little extra when we vote some more for ourselves. I mean, the best example is the drug companies.
Oh, please.
They certainly aren't little guys.
Yeah.
And anybody who's protecting patents loves the system. But my point is, most of that money that we're spending, we have to borrow against, comes from the demands of you and I, not Elon Musk and whoever,
right.
and
Right.
those people. Now, and I'm not against closing all the loopholes in the tax system.
I'm the same way.
That would be great.
Right.
And if we do, that will cost the wealthy more than the rest of us, because the loopholes are
really only
easier
work
for them to deal with
at those
but
levels. Yeah.
The answer here is, there are, if we're talking about manufacturing, the issue is that we are automating and even if we bring it back, it's going to be automated. So those fancy jobs that the people had aren't going to be here.
Right.
Well, they're not here. They're gone. But if we talk about immigration, damn, that's a difficult problem to solve, because we need those people.
We do need people. I agree. We absolutely need people. Right.
And I'm a liberal in some things, not many, but in some things. And on immigration, I am. But I'm not in favor of opening up the southern border, because the entire population of Central America would move here immediately.
And the rest of the world, they've been showing up in Central America so they can come here. Right.
Yes, because the developed countries have stable, safe environments, and the undeveloped countries don't. Now, we could talk for hours about why that is, but the fact is that the U.S. and Canada are the most attractive places to live in the Western Hemisphere, and the only reason Canada doesn't have a big problem is they border on the Arctic.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And there aren't that many Eskimos. Well, the Eskimos are Canadians, so
yeah.
Unless
speaking
wait
of
a
which,
minute, go ahead.
Every time I talk to you, I end up with a whole page of notes, because I keep making little notes. So I sure I go back and talk about this. This is totally off topic. You brought up, the Arctic, and I was watching a show last night, and I was just blown away by this. So north of the Arctic Circle in Alaska.
It's dark.
It's dark. It's cold. There's a town up there that's fairly good size, bigger than what you would expect way up there. It's pretty remote. Their police department, they had such a hard time keeping it filled and recruiting They came up with this program where they allow their officers to work 2 weeks on. And when you're working the 2 weeks on, it is 14 straight days of 12-hour shifts. But then you have
Right.
2 weeks off. 80+% of their officers are from the lower 48. People are from
Oh,
Texas,
for sure.
Maine,
Yeah.
Florida. Yeah, they go up, they fly up there, they work 14 days straight, and then they fly home to Florida or Texas or Arizona, and they have 2 weeks off. I thought that was just wild.
Well, that's if you look at the economy as a whole, that's common. Hospitals hire nurses on the same
Okay. Yeah.
on the same deals, and the classic is you want to work weekends, fine. You'll work 3 weekend days, and that's all you work all week.
Okay.
You know, three.
Yeah.
No, 2 12s on the weekend, and that's it. But one interesting, as long as we're talking about the Arctic,
Yeah.
if the ice sheet melts, and you can get in a boat from Russia and come to Canada, Canada's going to have an immigration problem.
Well, I don't think the ice sheet's melting anytime soon, but just in case. Now I want to go back to something. And by the way, Brent's here with us.
Yeah, go
Brent,
ahead.
good morning.
Hello, gentlemen. This has been a fascinating conversation.
Well,
I love it.
Wait till you
Hey,
hear this.
Brent.
Hello from Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
So, Noel, almost always I am asking you to explain stuff to us, but I finally get a chance to explain something to you.
What's that?
So
I'm interested.
So you mentioned that you were surprised that there were 70 private jets in Chattanooga. I know exactly why.
Why is it?
F3 was going on in Chattanooga. It's all those damn freight brokers.
Is it?
Yes.
It's
all
those guys are flying in. Now, come on.
Come on, they're all flying in on their private jets, and then they're getting in
Brent,
their G-Wagons. Come on,
does
they make all the
Jeff
money.
Tucker have a private jet?
Well, I'll tell you a couple of reasons about Chattanooga. Number one, there are a few of them certainly, freight leaders in this market that have their own private planes, but Chattanooga is a haven for wealthy people to retire to.
Yeah,
as well.
Right,
it's a beautiful part of the country. Those taxes
yeah.
are low, and there's a whole lot going on economically that you could even live there and invest in. And so there's a lot of people that have acquired enough wealth to have their own private jet, and so that's why you see them there.
I think it's the freight brokers.
Yeah,
it's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
It's all freight brokers.
That's right.
Yeah. It's a nice place.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
All right. So,
hey,
go ahead. Noel.
I want to throw out one more logistical issue. I'm not. It's indirect to trucking, but it will definitely affect trucking. And that is, I live in South Central Pennsylvania, which is the center of warehousing for the Northeast, and it has been for many, many years. Jenny and I, my wife, went out to dinner last night, and we passed 2, good grief, 1.5 million square foot warehouses that were empty. And there's another one that was built a couple of years ago on the other direction from my house, equally big, and they're empty. And what I can tell you from a local standpoint, and I look at this when I fly into cities from the air and the weather's clear, there is a huge glut in warehouse space right now because everybody, like with trucking in 2021, overbuilt.
Noel,
have you seen anything like that? Or
I can't believe you
or is
brought
that
this.
important to trucking?
I can't believe
talking
you
about
brought
warehouse
this up,
space?
and you just
Warehouse space, yeah.
Oh yeah, I got a little comment on that, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, I do too.
Please do.
Just yesterday,
Either way,
over the weekend, Lisa and I went up to. We were like a quarter of a mile from the Canadian border in Washington State, up in northern Washington. My son lives up there. We went up for my granddaughter's first birthday, and on the way back, we pulled off a couple places. Yeah, pulled off a couple places in Washington, and we had gotten off an exit. We're going by this building, and I looked over, and I started trying to count the dock doors because I could see how long this building was,
Yeah.
and the just
Right.
dock.
Yeah. Yeah.
There
I do
had
the
to
same
be
thing.
somewhere close to 100 dock doors, and the whole place is
Yeah.
just empty. Nothing going on at all. It's totally
Oh
empty.
yeah,
Yep.
that's true. Yep.
Well, it
Well,
it just shows you that truckers are not the only people that overexpand.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah. Well, that's Noel, and Kevin. That's all true. That what the blitzkrieg on warehousing was the Amazon effect, where there's so much need for the inventory that people want next day, same day, in the metropolitan areas. You see them. If you go 40 miles outside, and I think it's Amazon. They don't want it any more than 40 miles outside of the major metropolitan area. That they're built. That these people are expanding these warehouses, so they're trying to take advantage of that. Of course, from the economics of it, because they figure Amazon won't be the only people that take advantage of that. Of course, Walmart, Target, Costco. I mean, all these other players are doing the same thing. So it's fascinating to see what's going on. But yeah, right now there is probably an oversupply, but I don't know if it'll stay that way for long, because I know during the pandemic and even post-pandemic, warehouse space was at about 95% plus full. So it's an interesting play as to how freight will be like repositioned. I just finished rereading it, Kevin. And I need to send this to you for you to read privately, of course. But Noel did Truck Stop a great paper on the entire U.S. freight marketplace, and I just reread it again on the plane here. It only took me an hour and 40 minutes to read it, so it's a fantastic piece. And let me tell you something, it's thorough. But even with freight just changing, just in general, and how it goes, it continues to become, expand for one thing, and then just continue to change as the population requires it and desires it. So it's just a fascinating game that we're all a part of.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
But I'll throw out another controversial issue, and this is definitely trucking oriented. I'll give you two anecdotes to make the point. I was at the Freight Waves conference 2 weeks ago, and as usual in the where all the exhibits were, I went around looking for golf balls, and the only people that had them were Amazon and Amazon Freight, whatever they call that thing, the trucking outfit. And the Amazon balls had no logo except Amazon on them. No Titleist, no Top Flight, no evidence at all who made it. And yesterday I was driving around and I got past one of Amazon's new Sprinter vans, obviously specially made for Amazon. And on the front, where Freightliner or Daimler or somebody's logo should normally be, the only evidence as to who made the thing was Amazon. And what I'm trying to point out is they like to take the world over, and I know for certain they intend to dominate trucking.
Right.
And they intend to dominate in two ways. They intend to be the freight matcher of the world, like they are in the cloud, and they intend to provide all the trailers. So the only thing that's going to be left, if they are successful, and that's a huge question, the only thing that's going to be left for the open market anyway is the ability to provide a tractor. For years and years, I would shout at the people in the asset portion of the market that the most important player was C.H. Robinson, and they would discount that, saying, "Oh, they don't have any trucks."
Right.
Yeah, they controlled $4 billion of trucking fleet. That's all they did.
Right.
And now there's a new monster in the garden, with even more resources and a even bigger ego than C.H. Robinson.
Yeah.
Those guys want to take over the world,
Hey,
and they have succeeded, haven't they, in a couple other places?
You know who's been doing that no logo on any of their equipment for decades?
Who else?
UPS.
You are right. Well,
For-
and same mentality, isn't
Right,
it?
right. For decades. You look at their
Yeah.
equipment, you have no idea
Yeah.
who built it unless you recognize the shape. There's not a logo anywhere on their
Yeah.
stuff.
On all their vans, you're right.
Trucks,
don't.
their tractors,
Well, hell,
same
they
way.
had their own. When diesel came out, or during one of the energy crises we used to have, they had their own engine manufacturing, didn't they?
They
I think
may
they did.
have. The other example of that in the industry, I always get this confused. I think I'm going to get this right. Wasn't it White Motors that was started by CF? Is that
Oh,
correct?
absolutely. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Freightliner was specifically a in-house supplier of engines and truck. I mean, to Consolidated Freightways.
And
I
ultimately,
think White was separate, but
it's hard to figure out
not
because
Freightliner.
it was White Freightliner for a while, then
Yeah,
White Freightliner.
yeah. I may be wrong, but I know that Consolidated Freightways had their own truck
Yeah, I'm
manufacturer.
pretty sure it was White, but then it gets confusing because at one point White and Freightliner were associated, then White and Volvo
They were together. Yeah,
associated,
yeah,
and
right. Yes,
technically
they did.
now
Yeah, that's right.
Volvo is what happened to the White, that it became Volvo at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's confusing, but
Well, yeah.
couple other things
Well,
I wanted to get your opinion on if you've got some time. One of the we've been talking about all the alphabet agencies and how they've gotten out of control and they have way too much power. We have the Chevron case that everybody's been talking about. Something else that came up the other day, and I can't find the article right now, so I don't have all the numbers, but just this concept really bothered me. And I don't have the numbers, but with Doge, and they're already digging into where they're going to save all this money. And I had no idea that these alphabet agencies, how much money they have spent on creating things like logos and marketing. The amount of money that got spent marketing and PR on alphabet agencies, the number was so big, I can't even remember what it was. I don't know why that hit me like that seems to be like a total waste of time. Here's this agency that's wreaking havoc in my industry, and you're going to market it and spend all my money on PR for it?
Well, Brent, you're the.
Yes, sir.
How come people spend so much money on marketing?
Well, I think it's because marketing is a very difficult game, and you never know. They say marketing is about 50% effective. You just don't know which 50% it is.
Well, here's what I don't get. Marketing in business, marketing is designed to lead to sales, right? Isn't that the point of marketing, to lead to sales?
Correct.
These alphabet agencies, it's not like I have a choice. It's not like I can say, oh, I don't like the FMCSA's product. I get to use the GFCSA, or I have no choice. Why do you have to market?
Well, in a sense, you don't. And I don't know, Kevin, how much, and I'd love to look at those budgets. I'd love to know, how much was it, they were updating systems, that may be in the marketing budget. Who knows, how all that works out. But yeah, I'm with you. It's a monopoly. I think I know it well enough.
Another one I saw in the news this morning, Noel, and I don't know how much you pay attention to this issue. I pay attention to it a lot because I can use the phrase, I wrote the book on this topic. I wrote the book on how bad lease purchase programs are in trucking. They are horrible. It's one of those. It's like sharecropping. The numbers are so bad, and I've tried to point this out to people forever. I've tried to point out the fact that the only reason to ever sign one of these deals is a bad reason. The only reason you would ever sign one of these, if you understood what was happening, is because you have no money and no credit, and you have no other way of getting a truck. That's the only reason I can think I've ever signed one of these. The problem with that is, if you have no money and no credit, you shouldn't be in business, period. So to me, for the most part, these plans are just awful. But there's a task force that's been working for several years now on this, because that's how task forces work. Their answer to this is just ban them completely. And I'm just not for that. Any thoughts?
I think you summed it up at the very beginning. The only reason to do so is to get into a business you can't afford to get into any other way. And for every maybe 5 or 10% succeed, and everybody looks at them
That's
and says,
about the
"That's how they
number.
did it. I can do it."
Yep, that's about the number. It's less than 10%.
Yeah, but that there is no, for better or worse. No, the free market, which is the only way that we can efficiently manage anything in this economy, includes the ability of people to make bad decisions.
Correct. Yeah.
Hell, I decided 15 years ago to work with Brent Hutto, and look at what it cost me.
I think we need some sort
And
of
him too.
I think we need some sort of a task force to investigate Brent Hutto.
Well, I think so. I think
mean,
Noel definitely deserves hazard pay. There's no doubt. He definitely deserves some hazard pay.
But I mean, you think about our business, the profits that people made in trucking in 2021 and 2022 are because a bunch of people made bad decisions with respect to their capacity in 2020.
Yeah.
The shippers screwed up big time. And when the economy came roaring back and they couldn't hire their people again, they were desperate, even though it was entirely predictable. And maybe Brent knows that I predicted it. And it wasn't because I was brilliant. It's just because, when things go down, they come back. But that's how people behave. And fortunately, well, here's the way I look at it. You get an economy, 10% of the people in the economy are brilliant, and whatever they do works. So Elon Musk would be an example, or Microsoft. 10% of us are unrepentantly stupid, and whatever we do is going to fail. And all the rest of us are in the middle.
Yeah.
Making a mistake here and maybe not, and somehow it all works. And what's it called? Churchill said something many years ago that sums this whole thing up, and that is, and I'm paraphrasing. He was talking about politics. It's the same issue, but the free market is incredibly messy and problematic. Except that if you look at the other options, they're all way worse.
Exactly.
And so in trucking, we have to live with the fact and find a way to make money. And you have, by the way, helping the people that have come into the industry probably for the wrong reasons. And some of them take your advice and they straighten it out and they make some money. But most of the rest of them, as you well know, leave. Sadly.
My solution to that messiness, not that we'll ever get rid of it, because the free market's always going to be messy, but if we want to improve it slightly, I don't see it happening in regulation. I see it happening in education. We just need to educate people about how business works, how money works, how finances work, and we do such a poor job of that.
We do, but that's the messiness of the free market. Is you can't.
Well,
you can't. Well, there
wait.
isn't perfect information. We know that, and so sometimes we get the wrong signals. But the rest of it is that well, I mean, take a look at your family and don't mention names. And it's not Lisa, for crying out loud. I know that for a fact. But if you look at your family, some significant portion of your family members, adults, are not comprehensively competent. They can't manage their own lives.
Yes.
Not like the rest of us do. And
I
that's
agree.
just a fact.
Right.
Oh, just a science fact here. Freightliner was founded by Consolidated Freightways. They had a short partnership with White. White ended up in Volvo.
Oh, so it was actually
just looked it up.
Freightliner they started. Wow. That's an even bigger deal.
They started Freightliner way back in the 50s. And, well, but remember, you don't remember, I talked with enough people who do, that there was a real shortage of truck capacity in the early 50s.
Wow. Yeah, interesting. So it was
So,
Freightliner. All right. I think I'll remember that now.
And the manufacturers hadn't gotten the answers yet. Hell, they were all gas jobs back then.
Well, there was a time, and I owned one. I actually owned a Class 8 tractor made by GMC, and I owned a Class 8 tractor owned by Ford. Now, both of those got out of the business a long time. Well, Ford wasn't all that long ago, 80s, I think. No, 90s. Ford was still building trucks in the 90s.
Well, when I started at Cummins, we were providing engines to both, not to GMC because they didn't want them. They wanted Detroit diesel, but we were supplying them to Ford.
Yeah, well, eventually, GMC certainly did use Cummins because I owned the cab over GMC I owned had a Cummins in it. That would have been 84.
Yeah. Well, GMC tried to keep their gas jobs going.
Yeah.
And by the end of the 70s, it was obvious that didn't work.
That wasn't going to work. Yeah. All right.
Well,
good. Good stuff.
I was young then.
Yeah.
Was that like a century ago?
Yeah.
Was that about a century ago that you were young? Is that how that works?
Hey, Brent, I am a product of the first half of the last century. Think of it.
Yeah.
That's
right.
And I'm talking about the future.
That is so true.
Yeah.
He was born when? What does he know about the 21st century?
I love it. Well, I will say this, and this is something I've learned as a 50 plus year old guy, is that it pays. It's wise of you to have friends that have historical perspective, and so that's why I get to hang out with Noel Perry and learn about the trucking industry and be able to help our customers at Truck Stop and that sort of thing, because Noel just brings such perspective on this and my thing, and this is the thing, Kevin, that one of the reasons that Noel is such a value is that his point is you need to be looking forward all the time. You can look at today, and that's great. We live in today's market, no doubt. Let's figure out what to do today. But you need to be looking forward, because if you're in a down market, guess what? You and I, Kevin, talk about this all the time. It's a supply and demand. It's going to come back up. And guess what? If it's flying high, you better have your radar out there going, it's going to come back down, because all supply and demand comes back to its normal no matter what. And so this is why it's just such a value to the marketplace.
Speaking of which, since I have a couple brilliant people on here with me, there's two more things I want to talk about. You just mentioned one of them. That's why we do this show, right? I mean, Mondays is about looking at where we are and where we might be going and trying to predict that.
That's right.
Noel, I'm looking at what I'm seeing politically right now, and I'm seeing at least talk of things that have not really occurred in my lifetime politically, whether it's going to happen or not. So how do we, I mean, are predictions just wide open for the next year or two? I mean, if they pull some of this off, it could have huge impacts. If they pull nothing off, does it feel like it's much harder right now to figure out what's going to happen in the next 24 months?
No, well, I'll give you a typical bullshit economist to answer to that.
Okay.
But it's real because it's based on reality.
All right.
The likelihood in the next 2 years is nothing's going to happen.
Okay.
Because nothing usually doesn't happen.
Well, that's kind of the way
that's
right.
what, I have a slide that shows that like 85% of the quarters since I started keeping records back in 2020 have been just like the quarter before them.
Okay.
The catch is when the poop hits the fan, it's important. But that doesn't usually happen tomorrow. It happens out someplace, and either we kind of fall into it like we did in 2008. It just, or we get an external shock.
Right.
Maybe Israel and Iran will do something nasty, or maybe France will go bankrupt and the euro collapses. But that's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen sometime.
Yeah,
Hell,
right.
The United States government is going to go bankrupt. There's no way that we can pay off how many trillions of dollars of
36
of debt that we have.
Are we at 36?
It's 200,000. It's $23,000 per person, I think, in the United States. Whatever it is, we can't repay that. And so if you take the long view, we are going to either explicitly or implicitly renege on that debt, just like Argentina and Italy did. But that isn't going to happen tomorrow. So, I'm going to move into my retirement house in the next 2 years, fat, dumb, and happy.
Well, there you go.
At some point, these bad things, and so in short, what I'm trying to say is, I'm pretty sure about what's going to happen in 2025. I'm reasonably sure about 2026, but I have no idea about 27 and 28.
Got it.
Well, there is something we can say intelligently about that, and that is it's a downside risk.
Okay.
And that's all an economist can tell you. And you said something. It's very important that Peter Drucker taught me, the great management thinker.
Yeah.
You said we have these shows and we look at what's happening now, and then we think about the future. Well, most people don't look at what's happening now. They're still living 2 years ago. Our industry is still looking at 2021 as if that was normal, as if that's now. And we've had this glitch, and it's going to go away. Well, no, the fact is we are at normal, but most people don't do that. And so what an economist does is say, what's really happening now? And then it says, okay, when we get some risks, are they up or down? What's the most likely thing that I have to worry about? And what I'm betting the remainder of my career on is that in the short term, the risks are downside. Long term, I think they're overwhelmingly upside for technology reasons. But in the next 10 years, I think they're downside.
Got it. Got it. Well,
Kevin, one thing that might be fascinating, and this is in the paper that Noel wrote. He talked about the impact of inflation on transportation and how that is something that transportation doesn't adjust well to, because we're such a pennies marketplace. So Noel, if you wouldn't mind for a couple seconds on that and on how, and this is something that most people don't look at as well, which is this is a very mature marketplace. It has matured especially in the last decade, with sort of more informational aspects coming into the marketplace and technology that runs those informational aspects. And I don't mean the automation of freight and the automation of trucks. I just mean there's so much maturity in this marketplace. Those things that's an aspect of it too. So, and I say that because I'd love for you to know to expand a little bit on how this marketplace is going to continue to change, but it will be slow.
Well, what was the first thing you just said?
Talk about inflation. Talk about inflation. Yeah.
Okay, this is the result of my analysis, and I don't think anybody else, probably because there aren't that many transportation economists, has analyzed this. The trucking industry spends about 70% of its time not having operating below full recovery of inflation. So in common language, that means they're making less money than they should because they haven't raised prices enough. And then they catch up whenever there's a boom. So in 2020 and 18 and 14 and 04, they caught up. But then when the next downturn hits, they get timid again, as Brent so wisely remarked, and they get behind, and they stay behind until the next up. And so if you are a banker looking at our industry, you'd say, oh boy, I ain't investing now until I think there's going to be a big upturn. If you are a participant in our industry, you need to look hard at your pricing, because it's going to be, if you follow what everybody else does, which is what most of us do in this business, you're going to be operating less on a lower operating ratio, a lower profitability ratio than you should be. And one of the things I've tried to convince people in the industry is that it is more like it's free market that people say it is. It's real, and I don't mean. What I mean by that is any truck can do any. Fungible is the economic jargon for it. It's really a collection of probably 200,000 small oligopolists who dominate, along with somebody else, a part of the market. And if you want to survive, and yes, people can come in there and steal a load from you once in a while, but if they're going to survive, they have to know the specifics of those lanes. They have to have the relationships. They have to have the finance numbers that you talk about so often, and so they have the ability, if they were good oligopolists, or not, but if they were, they have the ability to extract the full value for the services they provide. And I'll give you an example. Let's take Walmart as an example, as the customer, and then we'll talk about people like Schneider and Werner and the rest of them that try to deal with that market. Walmart puts out a bid sheet that has something like 100,000 or more lanes on it, and they expect the people that respond to put a price in for most of those lanes. Well, who can do that except for the guys that I just mentioned? And they're not about to go award 3 lanes to their favorite little owner-operator trucker because the transaction cost is too great. They don't want to have to load in 100,000 carriers and run through an algorithm to figure out which one gets it each day. They want to say, okay, today it's Schneider, tomorrow it's Werner, and Friday it's Swift, because it's the cheapest way for them to operate. You need scale to serve Walmart, and there's only a few of them that have the scale, and yet they think that somebody's going to steal their business all the time. Hey,
Kevin, let me go ahead. No, I'll finish. I want to make a point.
I've said enough.
No, hey, look, here, I want to, Kevin, I want to give some hope to the Let's Truck owner operators and stuff out there, because and what Noel's saying made me think about more in this paper, and something that he and I and you, Kevin, have been talking about, which is, look, the spot market has become more and more valuable to the shipper, not because of the spot market's sake, but because of the brokerage sake. Because brokers are able to organize part of it. make the shipper comfortable in being able to move the freight in the spot market, and the pandemic only sped it up because it gives the shipper certainty. The broker gives the shipper certainty to be able to move that. So this is what, and Noel had this in his paper, Kevin, and we've seen it. I've talked about it many, many times about how the spot market since 1995 is fundamentally massively larger than it was in 1995 because it's more and more of a legitimate marketplace and where freight moves. So really what it is in today's market is it's in any market. Like if freight can move in whether it's going to be in the dedicated, it might be moved dedicated, it might be moved in the open market contract in, it might be moved in the open market spot in, because it's all connected together. And so, but the idea that this marketplace is going to get smaller is not true. It's not true. It's just going to fundamentally grow and grow, and has historically.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading that. Can you send that over to me today?
Of course, Mr. Rutherford. Of course.
It's gloomy out. I'll spend some time
Tell me that
educating myself.
my next time we see it, I want some free muffins.
There you go. There you go. Hey, I have one more topic I want to talk about with you guys. See what you think.
All right, let's do it.
Before I do, I just saw some good news. I've been watching this, and just popped up on my X feed here. Daniel Penny was acquitted. Good. I don't know if anybody else.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's unique.
Who's
Wow.
Daniel Penny? I don't know.
Daniel Penny is that ex-Marine that choked the guy on the subway. He was threatening to kill people in a subway car, and he's been on trial, and they acquitted him. So good.
Good.
So broker transparency. I just want to get your opinion on this, and I know you may not follow this really closely, but I think the way this is occurring was kind of unique. So here's the issue that they've been arguing about for a couple of years now. Looks like they're finally going to come to some sort of a decision. So back in the 1980, when we deregulated trucking, one of the rules at the time was aimed at freight brokers. And Brent, what was the freight broker market like in 1980? Almost non-existent,
well,
right?
Mr. Rutherford, it didn't exist because the freight broker worked for the carrier prior to 1980, and that's why they needed to know the percentage that they were taking, because they were the agent of the carrier.
Correct.
So it makes perfect sense before deregulation.
Right.
There were 17 licensed freight brokers outside of the exempt space, which was commodities. There were only 17.
17.
One of which was
okay.
Tucker Worldwide. It was tiny.
Wow. Yeah. So there is the clause in the Motor Carrier Act of 1980 that's in the FMCSA rules now about all parties to the transaction being able to see the documents of the transaction, which would give you the margin for the broker, basically. Now, it's after the fact that occurs. Well, one of the things that is very, very common today is that in the broker contract with the carrier, the broker asks the carrier, when you sign the document, you are accepting that, to waive that regulation. They write it right into their contract, and it says, we want you to waive this regulation because we're not going to show you the documents. We don't want to show you the documents. And now that the whole market has shifted, there is no reason to have this regulation in there anymore. But it's still there. Well, here's what the FMCSA kind of came to this conclusion the other day, that so the people that are fighting this, that want broker transparency, are saying you can't sign away that regulation. Well, it turns out you can. You absolutely can. And the way that it works is, unless Congress makes a right or a regulation and specifically says you can't sign this away, then the courts have ruled you absolutely can. So these waivers are completely legal, and it doesn't look like the FMCSA is going to do anything about that. And it doesn't look like they can do anything about it. That this is legal and you are allowed to sign away that right. That's kind of a big deal. I mean, if that's the case, then the whole transparency issue just falls apart.
Well, I'd add two things. First off, it's likely the Trump administration would weigh in on the don't do it side.
That would be my thought.
Yeah, and the one thing that Trump understands economically better than his competition is that government regulation should be minimized. And here's a perfect example. The other side of this is, let's just think for a moment that the FMCSA is successful and this goes into play. The brokers, the owner operators want to see it. The brokers don't want to see it, and even more so, the shippers don't want to have their competition understand what they're paying to move that paper. So this is a perfect example of where the industry will immediately work up a workaround. And there will be some lawyers who make big money figuring out how to obfuscate the reality of that margin and the price that the shipper pays. And so we will have a little layer of complexity in the industry that serves no purpose, that will raise prices by, some less than 1%, but it will be there. It is not this is something, and I'll compare this to another regulation that you can't get around, or much harder anyway, and that is speed limiters. If indeed we get speed limiters, there will be an immediate, as it gets rolled in, there will be an immediate, easily measured reduction in productivity.
Right.
Because that you can't get around.
Right.
Either you're doing 66 miles an hour or you're not.
Right.
And so people like Scopolitis, who are experts in the law, can talk about this forever and ever, and they're damn right. It's bad policy. But on the other hand, if it happens, Scopolitis will be one. Don't quote me on this, but no. Outfits like Scopolitis will be the ones who help the carriers and the shippers more than anybody else, to get around it.
Yeah.
It's a boss of mine had a great word for it back in the railroad. This is mischief. and by the way, it's another example of a policy that, to particularly the owner operators, sounds reasonable. Tell us how much you pay. We need to know. It's reasonable, because everyone thinks the brokers are cheating. And by the way, I can tell you, based on primary research, that right now the brokers are competing on margin.
Yes.
They never have before.
Yeah.
Their margins are what's the word? Historically low for this point in the cycle.
Hey.
So the shippers and the owner operators are getting exactly what they hoped for.
Hey, Noel,
it's a much tougher place to make money.
I have to say that even going way, way back when I was still pretty young in business and didn't understand a lot of things, I never once looked at that idea and thought it was reasonable at all.
Well, it's not, but hey, what did I say about messy politics? Messy decision making.
I talk to people today and I try to ask them, why in the world do you think this is reasonable? If you know anything about business at all, there's nothing reasonable about this.
I know you two weren't like this, but 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I was young and stupid. And I did some things that you just would not understand.
All right. Boy, we've gone past time here. Brent, anything else we want to cover today? Noel, thank you, by the way. This has
Well,
been a great conversation this morning.
Well, let me just
It's
give you
fun.
the rebound from the holiday. We had, as I mentioned, the market index, pressure index, dropped 20 points, raised like 40 points from last week to this week, which means and freight load postings went from below normal back up to above normal, so everything's returned to normal, as Noel was talking about. But this
Yeah, I'm
marketplace that
looking at
we're
the
in today
numbers
is just,
right
it's
now.
just a normal. And look, you want, and honestly, Kevin, this is something you and I talk about. You want this marketplace to have as much normality as possible, because it's in the normal times that you can build a dependable, repeatable business that you can enjoy if you're a trucking entity. Look, good markets are great, and I want them for every trucker as much as possible. But it's being able to operate, as you and I talk about, being able to operate efficiently in a normal market to be able to produce the predictable profitability that you want for your entity, so you can enjoy trucking. So to me, that's just kind of what it was good. I think let's see, van rates went up 5 cents, flatbed rates went up 1 cent, and refrigerated rates went up. I think it was 8 cents. Yeah, 518. That's it. So just a week over week. So this shows you that it's just rebounded back, which is a good thing for transportation.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great stuff today. And
Sure. Thanks for having us on.
yeah, I think we'll wrap this on. Noel, again, thanks. Great. I've had
You're
this
welcome,
whole list
and,
of stuff I wanted to run by you.
do me a favor, when you write this up, urge your listeners to be safe.
Will do. Great stuff.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take
Yes,
care.
sir.
All right. I'm going to hang out for just a couple minutes here and see if we have any calls. When we get talking about stuff like that, the calls drop off, which is fine, but I'll give you just a couple minutes. Let me go through my notes, see if I got a lot of notes today. Oh no. 855-950-3835. Jump in here in the next couple of seconds, or I'm going to wrap this up today. I am going to go read that paper by Noel, and I have some other things to get caught up on today. So give you about another 30 seconds here. I don't see any calls coming in. 855-950-3835. All right. Looks like we're going to wrap it up. Nope. There's one. I knew if I said we're going to wrap it up, one would come in. All right. I'll hang out and see what's on somebody's mind here. So if you want to join us, lines are open. 855-950-3835, or hit that call now button on your app. I think I pretty much got to all the stuff I wanted to talk about today. Yeah, that should do it. Let's go to Idaho. Austin, welcome.
Hey, quick question about purchasing a used truck. I know we were talking about adding another truck to my fleet.
Yeah.
To find a driver for. So I think I found a cheap truck. My mechanic actually recommended it to me. It's I think the guy wants like 10 grand for it. It's got a lot of miles, but it's been rebuilt. So, is there things that I should look for when I buy a very used truck versus buying like a slightly used truck?
No, because for me, the process, whether the truck is 6 months old or 26 years old, is the same. I want to know as much about that truck as I can possibly know before I buy it. That's always my approach. If there's one more thing I can learn about that truck, then I want to learn it. If I'm going to do a rig dig, whether it's 6 months old or 26 years old, I'm going to pull an ECM report. I'm going to try to get an oil sample if that's a possibility. It really doesn't change my approach whether the truck is a month old or 10 years old. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do the same work to try to figure out as much as I can about the truck before I buy it.
Okay, can you get an ECM report on a 2001?
Absolutely. Anything with electronics. So we would have to go back to, mid 90s or earlier. Detroit has been electronic since the mid 80s. So on a Series 60, we could go back to a truck that was built in 1988 and pull an ECM report.
Okay. I don't know anything about it's a D12. It's not a Detroit. It's a Volvo motor.
Right.
So I don't know anything about a D12. Is that just before they made the D13?
Correct. D12 was the older generation before the D13. Now, I was never a fan of the D12, but it turns out it's because I didn't understand it. It's not as good as the D13 and turbo compounding and all those other advancements, but the D12 was not a bad engine if you understood it. And I just didn't back in the day. I do more now. So, and here's the other thing I'll say.
Okay.
When we're talking about $10,000 or $15,000 trucks, I'm not quite as picky. I'm only spending $10,000 or $15,000. I mean, I may pick an engine that I'm not even wild about sometimes in a truck this cheap. It just depends. In a D12,
Yeah.
I'd be
Well-
fine with the D12 now that I understand them better.
Yeah, well, this is kind of like my, I want to experiment with even hiring another driver. So going 10,000 in on something,
Exactly.
I don't want to have a truck payment.
Yeah, 10,000. It's
at the end of the
almost
day-
impossible to go wrong, because here's the thing: if you spend 10,000 on it, and 6 months from now this just isn't working out, you'll get 10,000 back out of it again. Trucks almost never drop below that $10,000 mark.
Yeah, and the rebuild only has like 179,000 on it, so that's not that much.
My
And
guess
my mechanic
is
knows the truck.
my guess is that rebuild was probably $30,000.
He had 20,000.
20?
He shows the he has the
Okay.
receipt. He sent me pictures of them.
Yeah. Yeah. This could potentially be a great truck for what you're looking at.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check it out next weekend. Hopefully it doesn't sell by then, but I'm assuming it's gonna be a very fast sell.
Yeah.
But should I mean, even if I go pull an oil sample on that, I mean, it'll probably take like a week or two for that to get back. I mean, it'll probably be gone by then. Is it really worth?
Well, can you ask the guy about putting a deposit to just now? We could get an oil sample back in less than a week if you plan it. So you go down there, you
Okay.
pull it, you make sure it gets into, UPS. The oil sample gets shipped in right away that day. We can ask for expedited, and they don't have to ship anything back. They email you the results. When we used to do the CMC, one of the programs we offered was when you pulled into the CMC, we pulled oil samples, engine, differentials, transmission, whatever you wanted, and we were able to get results back in like 3 days. Now, we worked with the lab ahead of time and said, hey, we're having this event, and they're a partner of ours, but we were able to get results in like 3 days.
Okay. Is there somewhere I should send it to?
The oil sample?
The oil sample? Yeah.
Yeah, when you buy the oil sample kit, it comes with a mailer. It's already set up, labels, everything. You just slap the labels on there. But you can call the lab and ask if there is a way to expedite this, and you might be able to cut a day or two off their time.
Okay. So it's available in the Let's Truck shop?
Correct. Yeah, you can buy the samples in our store.
Okay. Now, what's the correct way to pull an oil sample? Because people tell me different things.
In a situation like this, the best way is just with what we call a vampire tube. It's just a long plastic tube that will fit down the oil fill, and you stick the tube in there, you put your thumb over the top, and you pull it out, and then you just empty that tube into the bottle.
Okay, so you don't have to like drain the oil or anything.
No. You can do it with a vampire tube, and that would be the way to do it here.
And does the vampire tube come with the oil kit, or do I have to go buy that
you're gonna
separate?
have to go find one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all I had on that. So appreciate the time.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to New Jersey. Jim, welcome.
Hey, Kevin. Well, my my big bubble of prosperity in the next 10 to 15 years was just deflated some by Noel. And I have an open mind, but I don't want to go there yet. Well, how do you take those Daniel Broughton's prediction and Noel
Well, they're
kind
not
of deflating that?
they're not as different as what you would think. In fact, they're almost the same.
Okay.
Here is the hardest part of economics to define. The hardest part is the timeline itself. It's not as hard to predict what might happen next. It's really difficult to predict when it's going to happen. Many, many economists in 18 and 19 were talking about a recession, a big pullback, and they expected it to happen sometime soon. Except in 20, something very strange happened, COVID. And then the government's response to COVID, and it changed everything for years and is still affecting things. And it's been very difficult to predict timing and direction. Now we feel like we've got some direction, some because of the election, but more so with technology and some other trends that are happening where we do believe there will be more nearshoring happening again. We'll start manufacturing more here. That takes time. That's why they're saying, it's not going to happen in the next couple of years. We'll start to ramp all this up. But then what will happen with immigration? We don't know, but that could have a huge impact on all of this. So the last thing I would ever want to be is an economist.
Right.
One of our regular listeners is losing his mind on X, and he's sending me all kinds of texts. This guy's an idiot. He's wrong. Why is he? I get it. I understand why he thinks that. I follow many analysts, 3 in trucking specifically, a couple more in the entire logistics market, not just trucking, and then some general analysts that look at the whole economy. And if you read what all of them are saying or writing, you can't make heads or tails out of anything. There's nothing clear about what's going to happen next. So, but almost everybody seems to think we have some short-term pain coming. Is it a year, a couple years? Is it here yet? Or is it going to be here in a little bit? And then there seems to be a pretty good consensus that we have a good decade or more coming. But it's the timing of how all this is going to play out. Is 2025 going to be bad? Most people don't think so. Most economists are saying now we're just going to kind of continue bumping along where we are. 2026, we could start to see some changes. But you know what? We said that about 22 and 23, and it's still just not clear. And this administration, I think, is really going to shake things up, or not. Or not. Maybe it's just a big dud and nothing much changes in government. So are you at least more confused now than you were when you first called me?
No, not really. That was helpful, but I still feel like the prediction models, from COVID and the markets that we've seen, don't seem to be. Can we even predict because the models have been so changed?
Right. Can we? I mean, there's so many things that still don't make sense. Why is the stock market setting records?
So your crystal ball says we're just got to wait and see.
Unfortunately, and I feel like I've been saying that since like 2017. And yet here we are in, about to enter 2025, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of clarity on where we're going. And I still don't feel like we ever had the recession we were supposed to have. Why is the real estate market still so hot?
It's way high.
I know.
I just can't comprehend how the real estate keeps going up.
Right.
And it's still going up.
In 2008, after a decade of the market going through actually about 13 years that time, I bought a house in Orlando when did I buy that? 94. And by 2007, I paid $150,000 for it in 2004. By 07 heading into 08, it was more like 400,000, which was a crazy appreciation. And then it crashed. And that market really hasn't even made it back. I'm not sure if that house would be worth that much today. But many other markets, the market I'm in out here, some markets went absolutely crazy, and the prices aren't coming down on most of that real estate. So we have a kind of a slow economy, and yet we have a booming stock market and a booming real estate market. Well, the real estate market isn't booming, but the prices aren't coming down. So I don't know. I don't know. I think that if you've made it through what we've been through so far in trucking specifically, if you made it through, I think we're going to be okay. I can't see things getting any worse. So if you're doing okay now, I think maybe we'll see a slow climb out of this.
And then deporting all these illegals and the effect that's going to have on the economy, that's going to take some time to notice. But if we shut down these government agencies, well, there's the labor to replace them. I doubt it'll work like that.
Well, no, but here's the other thing I wonder. How many of these illegals that have come into the country are actually working?
Right.
I don't know, and I never hear anybody really talk about that. How many of them are employed paying taxes, and how did that happen? Because it shouldn't.
I know some of my customers in the flatbed segment, there are many foreigners, but they're on these work visas. So they're not necessarily illegal. They're here legally on these visas temporarily. And the shipper pays to bring them over each season. I don't know where all the illegals are working.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And right, and I'm not even talking about those. It's not that I'm saying I'm for those kinds of programs. That's a whole different issue. But they're at least legal based on the current laws. If we want to change those laws, we could certainly talk about that. But I'm just talking about the ones that are just here illegally. They crossed the border looking for asylum, and we just turned them loose and said, you'll have a court date in 3 years, just hang out. Well, technically, they're not allowed to be employed. I can't hire them. So where are they working? And if they're not working, then what's it going to matter if we deport them?
So much work to do. So much to do. It's going to be fun to watch.
That is.
Hopefully we can stay afloat.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, thanks for the call. Let's go to Ohio. Greg, welcome.
Hi, Kevin. I'm currently trying to recover from my second diverticulitis attack.
Okay.
And I had my first one in May of last year, and I had an abscess. And they put a drain into my stomach and drained it out, and I got better then. And I foolishly did not address the issue then, and had the second one. I had it on November the 6th. It started out mild, and they just gave me a antibiotic prescription, and I was getting better. And then I took a turn for the worse and ended up in the hospital for 6 days. I had 2 abscesses and a perforation.
Ooh, okay.
I was lucky enough that instead of emergency surgery, the surgeon that was on call that weekend, he decided to try 2 drains instead of surgery, and I have gotten a little bit better, but I'm not getting better. And of course, now they want to have surgery and cut part of my colon away.
Boy, you want to do everything you possibly can to avoid that.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm thinking. I guess what I'm looking for is some direction, and do I have time to avoid it? The plan for surgery was a couple of months down the road when I was feeling better, but since I'm not getting better, they want to do it in a couple of weeks.
Even a couple of weeks tells me this is not emergency surgery, that what they're seeing is not life-threatening in any way, or they would be doing surgery sooner. But what I'm going to tell you here is I could certainly work with you in the coaching program on the nutrition side of the problem here. What do we do diet and lifestyle wise to start solving this problem and fixing things? I can do that part. But this is a time where I would also want a functional medicine doctor involved to make the medical decisions on how dangerous is this? Is it something that might need addressed surgically or medically? So any functional medicine MD that you could work with. I just want somebody with medical knowledge as a part of this decision making process. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know, had we been back after the first attack and they just kind of let you loose and said, you know, go do whatever you're going to do. At that point, I would have said, look, let's just try diet, lifestyle. I'll work with you on the coaching program. Now that we've been here twice, they're starting to schedule surgeries to take out the part of the colon or the intestines. It's we need a functional medicine doctor for that part of it.
Okay. I guess also my other concern is I feel like all hell could break loose at any minute.
And that's why we've pushed it to the point where we have some time constraints here. But here's what I would tell you. If I were in your position and they were talking about, we'll schedule this in a couple weeks, when I got off this phone call, I would not stop until I found a functional medicine doctor to see me about this. That would be my next step, and I wouldn't stop until I got that done. And you should be able to get that done in time that you can at least talk to a functional medicine doctor about this surgery, whether it's really necessary or is there a way to avoid it. I can't make that call. I can immediately start helping you with nutrition and lifestyle and eating, but it's too late for that alone to turn this around, or maybe it's not. But I want a doctor to make that call.
Okay. I'm in Columbus, so there's certainly a lot of options here. Should I try somebody local, or would somebody like Dr. Wolfson be better?
I would try local first.
Okay.
If you don't find somebody you're happy with locally, and I'm on the air every day, you can call me back any day and ask me this question. Maybe we would get somebody like a Dr. Wolfson involved and call him and see what his thoughts are. Is it something he would work on, or? But I would try somebody local first.
Okay. All right. That was what I was hoping to hear, that there was still some time.
I still think there's time, but like I said, when I got off this phone call, my next phone call would be I would start looking for a doctor, and I wouldn't stop till I found one.
Okay, that's what I'll do, and I'll sign up for the coaching as well.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thanks
All
for the
right.
help, Kevin.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you on Thursday on the coaching call. Let's go to California. Jaime, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, good morning.
What's on your
I have
mind
a
today?
question. This is a health question.
Sure.
I've heard you talk about, I've been eating great, a lot of fatty cuts of beef, ribeyes, and I have my whole family, we're doing all that as well.
Okay.
And throughout the years of listening to your program, I managed to get rid of a lot of back pain, knee pain, everything. I feel great.
Good.
Once in
Good.
a while, I'll fall off the wagon, but for the most part, I stay pretty dedicated to the food that I eat. I'm well aware of the food that I put in my mouth.
Okay.
The outer part of my eyebrow. When I was in elementary, I had a full eyebrow, but now I've heard you talk about the outer piece
Yeah.
going away, and I have 3 other brothers. 2 of them, they have their full eyebrow, and my other brother has less eyebrow than I do.
Okay.
And I wanted to see what contributes to that.
That is it's not 100% guaranteed this is what's causing it, but it correlates pretty strongly. Is when you start to lose that outer third of your eyebrow, it's usually a thyroid problem. It's like an underactive thyroid. So when you switched the way you ate, did you lose weight or do you struggle to lose weight?
No, I lost weight. I
So-
lost a good 10 pounds.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have more weight you would want to lose? Or are you pretty happy with your weight?
I want to lose I want to lose like 5 more pounds, and
Okay.
I'm
Nothing
good.
major
I'm good.
though.
I feel great.
So the thyroid isn't always fixed just by food alone. Sometimes it is. How long have you been eating clean?
About a year.
Okay,
About
things
a-
could
about a
still
year.
continue
I've
to
been solid.
improve, even if we do nothing. If you just keep doing what you're doing and we don't add anything else, it might improve on its own. Many times it does. Thyroid, though, is part of the adrenal axis, and it is affected by diet, but it's also one of our organs and systems that is affected by stress. So even people with really clean diets can struggle with that adrenal, thyroid, pituitary, those organs working together. Sometimes you can still struggle with that on a really clean diet because of stress. So sometimes that's an issue where we have to look at it and go, yeah, your diet's is good, really good. And the longer you do that, the more improvements we'll see. But we also might have to look at stress and some other things around stress to get the thyroid functioning well again.
Okay. Is there do you recommend any supplements I can take to kind of activate that part, or
No,
is it just,
there's nothing simple. There's nothing where I can just say, oh, your thyroid's not functioning well. Here, take this supplement. There are supplements, but they tend not to just fix it on their own. There's some lifestyle things we usually have to address. Some other things we could look at. So a couple ways we could look at it. I don't think that you're seeing any big issues with your thyroid. I don't know. Have you done a NutriQ?
No, I have not.
You could do a NutriQ in even just 1 month of the coaching, and we could probably figure out this pretty quick. Sometimes people can have low thyroid function, and it doesn't affect them all that bad. They might have struggle a little bit losing weight. I don't think you're having that problem at all. They might be cold all the time, or their hands and feet are cold. That could be low thyroid function. But I've seen people that the outer third of the eyebrow doesn't come back, but there also isn't really any problem. They're not seeing any symptoms. They feel okay. They're losing weight fine. They have plenty of energy. And if that's the case, I would say we don't have to get too crazy about this. We could address it. Keep eating the way you're eating. It may get better over time. If not, we could look at some stress things. But I don't see this as any big deal. And there are supplements for this. I've just never found them to be very effective.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and try that. I'm going to do the the coaching. I'll get enrolled in that, and then we'll see. You know, if
it won't
I want to
take
get
more
something
than a
good out of
month.
it.
If you do a NutriQ, I'll look over the NutriQ. One coaching call, I'll probably have some ideas for you, and within a month we should be able to get this figured out.
Let's do that. Would you be able to transfer me to
Sure.
Angie so we get that going? Or
Yep, I'll put you back in the queue right now, and Angie will get you started. In fact, that way you can be on the call this Thursday. Let's go to Idaho. Dana, welcome.
Hey, Kevin, are you there?
Yeah, I am. What can I help you with today?
Hey, buddy. Just wanted to apologize. I've missed the last 2 coaching classes just because of trucking.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
I'm about. Yeah, I actually almost got on just for a couple minutes last week, and then I got to my pickup, and it just wasn't going to work out for me.
Got it. All
but
right.
I've done everything you told me so far for the gallbladder.
Good.
I'm about, I would say, 3/4 of the way through that protocol. I've almost out of I'm going to butcher these words. The enzyme forte.
Yeah, Intenzyme, right? Yep.
Enzyme forte, and then I'm almost through that, and then oh good Lord, the psychedelic, the chlorine, these words are so hard to say, bud.
Phosphatidylcholine.
Phosphatidylcholine, yeah.
There you go.
I've got about half a bottle of. It's so tough. I've got about half a bottle of that left.
Got it. Okay. Are we seeing any improvements yet?
And you said I do. So I've been doing the lemon water every day, the bone broth every day, and I definitely feel better.
Good.
I'm definitely got out of that. You know, things are getting dark for me. So
yeah.
You know, I've definitely pulled through the little bit of, I hate to say, but it is what it is. I pulled through the little bit of depression, and
no, I get
I'm on the other side.
I get it. When here's the thing. Let's talk about this for a minute. We've always, for some reason, we treat mental disorders or diseases or whatever we want to call them. We've treated them entirely differently than we treat other parts of the body. You know, if somebody has a heart attack or heart disease or kidney disease, nobody looks at them like this is somehow your fault. In essence, it is, in a way, because we've all eaten the wrong foods. Now the system is stacked against us. But when somebody has depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, any kind of mental issue, we treat it totally different, don't we?
Yes, sir.
We shouldn't.
Totally.
We shouldn't. There should be. We shouldn't have to say, well, I hate to say it, but I've been depressed or I've been anxious. That's no different than saying, I just haven't had any energy. My digestion sucks. I mean, it's all a physical problem. The brain is still a physical organ, but somehow we treat it differently, and we shouldn't. In fact, your gallbladder issues and your depression are the same problem.
Yeah, I agree. I've wholeheartedly seen it now. You know, this roller coaster I've been riding has my ups and downs are 100% connected to my dietary issues and how I've treated myself. You know?
Right. So the work you're doing the work you're doing to improve your gallbladder and your digestion are also going to improve the depression.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Totally. You know, it's funny how easy that when you start to slip, how everything kind of crashes around you. And then you just gotta, there's something to be said for pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. And starting from scratch again,
Right. And what you're learning in this process is don't you feel like you're more in tune with your body now that you can start to understand what's happening?
Yes, yes, definitely. Like I really do. It's just stay in the course. It's funny because it's mental. It's a mental aspect of it
Right.
that causes you to fall out of it, and
Right.
you can drag yourself down mentally, and then the next thing you know, you're dragging yourself down physically.
And
But if you have to stay on top of it, all it's like a science. It's this interesting science that you have to learn and
it
and
is.
stick with.
But here's the other thing I want people to know. Sometimes we think, okay, but I have to change my thoughts, and we do. But what we don't understand is sometimes those thoughts are powerful, and sometimes we can't change them. Our gut bacteria could contribute so much to this. That this is why I don't think talk therapy really works all that well. That maybe there are some people
Right.
that are helped by talk therapy, but for the most part, the problems we're seeing are not that we're not controlling our thoughts properly. It's that our gut bacteria is so screwed up that we can't control our thoughts properly. It'd be like
Right.
saying, I broke my leg, I'm just going to think it to heal. Well, no, you can't do that. It's got a healing process. You're going to have to reset the bone. You're going to have to put it in a cast. You're going to have to keep it immobile. And yes, then it can heal, but you just can't think about it and make it heal. And that's what some people think with these mental issues. Well, we're just going to talk about it and you're going to think about it. That's not going to work. If your
Right.
gut
Right.
bacteria
Yeah.
is producing too many of the wrong neurotransmitters, which is what's happening, you're not going to be able to control that. We have to fix the root problem. The root problem is not how you're thinking. The root problem is your gut bacteria is all messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're literally poisoning our entire body.
Right.
You know.
And it affects our brain, and I don't know why we're surprised by that or why we don't realize that's what's happening. It is affecting our brain just like it affects our heart and our kidneys and our liver and every other organ.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a trip, man. It really is. Like when you finally can see it so clearly, and I've been able to see it and still haven't been able to follow it. Like
Correct.
it's been
No, I get
a
it.
roller coaster of following it.
Right.
So that's
Right.
that's the challenge,
Yeah. Yeah. So
I tell you, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, on the coaching class the first one, what you had made mentions, we'll get through the gallbladder scenario, which I figure is going to be coming up, and we can switch to the liver flush, and then maybe look into lungs because my lungs are severely damaged from COVID pneumonia.
Now
So I would love to. I will.
There are some protocols
Go
we
ahead.
can do for the lungs, but I think right now we're on the right track. Let's fix this first, and then we can move on to that.
Yeah, yeah. And what's interesting? I noticed this last year. I obviously had a first gallstone attack and didn't realize it, and I must have passed them, and I thought it was indigestion. But I did a 3-day water fast, and then I started drinking lemon water, and that was just through following a guy on YouTube and listening to you. And I had noticed the same thing I noticed this time that I followed this gallbladder protocol. Is that I don't want this to sound off, but in my stool, I've noticed granule type stuff, and I wonder if that's gallstones being broken down.
Probably. Could be.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it feels like little iron, like little small pieces of iron.
Well, that is the point of, and that's why we have to be careful about this. We don't want to start flushing out stones if somebody has big stones, because it could be really painful.
Right.
Those are the kind that could turn into infections. So the idea is let's work on breaking up any stones that might be there. And at some point with you, we may move on to the flush. But I wouldn't want to do the flush with you now because it could be really uncomfortable for you and even somewhat dangerous.
Yeah, yeah, and luckily they did have to ultrasound. Like they barely picked up my stones,
Okay.
and so they had to actually ultrasound to find them, and then we did the MRI to find them even better. You know, so I think there was probably quite a bit of them. I know they pulled 7 out of the bile duct.
Okay.
So I don't know to what part was still left in the gallbladder, but I do feel like, you know, I don't actually know, but I feel like it wasn't because they had to look so hard for him. I feel like it
Right.
wasn't a massive
Right.
build
So,
up, you know.
yeah, you've been doing, kind of a cleanse more so than a flush, and I think at some point, you'll be fine to go ahead and do the flush.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I'll try to get on the. I'll try my damnedest to get on the coaching call this Thursday, and I look forward to being there and seeing you guys.
All right,
So.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you then. All right. We have a call coming in. We've got one in the screening room. I was just about to wrap this up, but I'll grab this call, and if another one comes in, I'll grab it too. But as of right now, I'll be heading to my. Boy, it's almost 10:30 already. Thought I was going to get out of here early today. I'll grab this call. We'll see what happens from there. Looks like we've got a full week going on this week, and then I think the next 2 weeks after that are somewhat limited. And I am going to be taking some time off again during the Christmas holidays. So those 2 weeks, I'll be taking a couple days off each. And then I'm going to try to get some rest. I keep saying that, and I keep taking time off, and I get really busy on my time off. But I'm going to kind of reset and get ready for the new year. Let's go to Arizona. Tom, what's on your mind?
Yeah, Kevin. Hey, good morning. I'll keep it quick. I don't know, man. I have a hard time with. I have a hard time with people that hate Trump, and he's looking for any excuse to blame Trump for everything. Well, these tariffs are going to work out like he thinks.
He doesn't hate Trump. I'll tell you that. He doesn't. Not at all. In fact, I'm positive.
He doesn't what?
Well, I shouldn't say this because I've never asked, but I have to believe he voted for him.
No. He voted for anybody but.
Yeah,
he voted for. He was the.
No, he didn't.
He was one of the white men for white men for Harris.
See, he said something that triggered you, but I could say the same thing. I just never say it the way he said it. He said, "I'm a liberal," and immediately. But he's not.
No, he said that way out. He said that way after, and he's not liberals. I have no problem with the old,
he's not
old-fashioned liberal.
He is more, and he's not even I would say he's more of a libertarian than anything. I could make the same statement. There are lots of topics I'm pretty liberal about, in the classic sense of a liberal.
I'm probably one of the most liberal guys that you want to meet too. Believe it or not.
Yeah, no,
I do
believe
about
it.
That kind of thing.
Right, about certain things.
God, dang.
But I will say that his take on Trump, I don't disagree with. Trump is not an economist. He's just not. And he said some things that make you believe he doesn't understand the economy at all. And that's not unusual.
Well,
there are very successful.
Not true at all.
No, it is true. There are very successful people that do not understand economics. Not even close.
Well, he's not one of them. He's not one of them.
I might argue that. I don't know that he has a good grasp on economics at all.
Well, when he wanted to refill the oil reserves, when oil was down to, they were giving it away for freebies. Remember when it was down to $14 a barrel or something stupid?
But let me tell you what that is. Let me tell you what that is. That's not understanding economics. That's understanding business. And there's a difference. He just sees an opportunity. He is a brilliant businessman, but not necessarily an economist, and he might not even understand most economic stuff. But in that case, he just looks at it as we need a product, And right now the product is cheap. That's just common business sense. So yes, you go buy it when it's cheap.
Right. That's you got a point there. And I just all these economists. What do you call an economic guy? Economists.
Right.
All these economists. They I haven't heard one be right yet for the last 10 years. So that frustrates the shit out of me.
That was kind of going to be my next point, and it's why I said I would hate to be an economist, because it is such a confusing area, and they're almost never right. None of them. When they are right, sometimes you wonder if they just got lucky or not. And Noel will tell you that. Most good economists will. Like, look, we know what we're doing, but no matter how good we are, we're going to be wrong much of the time. I would hate a job like that.
Well, especially when you're relying on the Fed and then what are they going to do?
Right.
Your guess, and then they're only meeting 4 times a year. So
Exactly.
you know what I mean. So it almost makes your job impossible. So yeah. If Noel's listening, which he isn't, I apologize for the mean tweet.
No, but there was nothing you tweeted or sent to me that I disagree with.
Which one?
No, there isn't anything. I agree with everything you sent. I don't disagree with that. But my take is that's just how this works. This is how economists are. We're not going to change it. It's not like I could dump all the 6 or 7 economists I listen to now and find 6 or 7 more that would be right. They would just be wrong in a different way.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. Just wrong in a different direction.
Right.
That's I'm just gonna quit listening to them 100%. But because I got mad at him. Really, I got mad at him at the CNC when it was Bitcoin. You know what I mean? And he hated absolutely, and it was really it was reasonable back then too. I don't remember what year that was, but it's my fault for listening. But I should have bought one back then. Hey, so the guy called about the lemon juice in the water, which I like to do the lemon.
Bitcoin. Yeah. I want to go back to that, and let's say digital currencies or cryptocurrencies, or there is so much misunderstanding about this topic that it's almost impossible to talk about. The one thing I try to help people with is, first off, we have to realize there's 2 big areas with cryptocurrencies. One is the investment side of things. The other is, will these things become usable currencies for us? Totally different, 1,000% different from each other. One, we're just going to use it like a dollar bill or a credit card or a check. It is just a form of payment. Just a different PayPal. I mean, we have lots of forms of payment these days. That's in one sense, that's all cryptocurrencies are. They're just another attempt at creating a way to pay for things.
You're missing the third. The important part's the third is the blockchain technology.
I don't even want to talk about that, because
of all 3 of them.
I know it is, because nobody understands blockchain technology, and it's not even working anywhere yet, really. For the most part, it is a total nothing burger for most of us. I remember trying to understand blockchain the first time I heard it and saying, I don't get it. And you still don't need to know this. Now, let's talk about cryptocurrencies as an investment, because that's what most people are all up in arms about or excited about or whatever it might be. My take on this. It is no different than my take on almost every other investment. Most people, like 90+% of the population, should never even think about these things as investments. that 90% of the people should not be doing option trading. They should not be doing day trading. They should not be trading individual stocks, period. Those are risky
Selling
enough.
short.
Now you throw in cryptocurrencies and talk about risk. It's off the charts, and people don't even understand the risk they're taking. Didn't I just read some? I didn't read it. I saw a bunch of headlines or posts. You know who the Hawk Tua girl is, right?
Yeah, she did a coin too.
And it failed spectacularly, right? From what I understand, a bunch of people
You
just
did
lost
it,
money.
and who's shocked about that?
Exactly. If you're shocked about that, you're an idiot, and you should not be investing in anything.
You should hide your money under your mattress because you're too stupid to even carry it around with you.
You know what else I did? Since we're talking about investments, we were in the car for a long trip, about 16 hours over the last 4 days. The traffic between here and northern Washington, the Seattle traffic, I cannot believe how bad it was this trip. So what would normally take us 5 hours if there was no traffic took us over 7.5 because of traffic.
Yeah.
And then we had the same, we didn't have a lot of traffic on the way back, but we made a couple stops. So it was about another 7.5 hours in the car. It's the first time in a long time I've really listened to Fox News because I really don't watch it much anymore. I get almost all my news from X. It wasn't the news that surprised me. You know what surprised me? What is going on with Trump? I heard commercials for Trump's gold sneakers, and Trump does the commercials himself.
Right.
This is our president.
I didn't even know that was legal, frankly.
I heard he did a commercial for his gold sneakers. He did a commercial for watches. He's selling watches. And he did a commercial for perfume and cologne. He's selling fragrances too.
I didn't know he had that. But you said he's a businessman. They're probably doing well.
I'm sure they are. I even made the comment, look, whether you like it or not, he's put himself in a position he could sell almost anything right now and make money doing it. People will buy it.
I didn't know it was legal actually for the president to be able to sell. Maybe as soon as he's inaugurated, he can't sell that stuff anymore. The best one I saw, you know, you go to the grocery store and you have the you have to scan that square box that has a bunch of dots in different places.
QR codes.
Have you seen that?
That's a QR code.
What are they called? Oh, the QR code. Yeah, but they're different than they used to be, just lines. But they're now there's a box.
Hold on.
Well, one guy's
got the lines was called a barcode.
Oh, okay.
This is called a QR code. So there are still barcodes. They still exist. Now, though, we also have QR codes. The QR code can hold more information than a barcode can.
Yeah, it must hold a lot because the guy had a T-shirt with that QR code on the back, right? And then I think he said it was in Portland and was at a bar, and so somebody walked behind him, and then there was somebody filming the dude that walked behind him to show what was on the QR code.
Yeah.
And he scanned it, and then it automatically went to the Trump doing his Trump dance.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Now here's what
it was hilarious.
Here what I was getting to on the commercials and investments. And I don't think there is any requirement that they said that, you know how sometimes you have to say certain things in the commercial? Like there's a regulation, you either can't say this or you have to say that. I don't think there's a regulation about what is said in one of these commercials, and I can't understand why they said it. Here's what they said. It was the Trump's gold sneakers. In the middle of the commercial was the line, "This is not suitable for investment purposes."
Yeah, I heard that.
Well, first off, I'm not sure why they said it. There can't be any kind of a requirement. People write commercials about every product on the planet and they don't have to say that. So I'm not sure why they put that in this commercial, but I disagree with it. Why aren't these suitable for investment purposes? I think they are. They're a limited run. Trump is a huge name right now, And how big do you think 100 years from now Trump is going to be looked at very differently than other presidents?
I hope so.
Won't he be more along the lines of, say, a Lincoln, maybe, right?
I would hope so,
as a
right?
kid, I certainly always knew Lincoln was a president. I might not have remembered Grover Cleveland or Rutherford B. Hayes, but I remember Lincoln, and we think about him very differently. And we all know Lincoln was a president, and many of us even knew which number of president he was. I don't know any others. Trump is going to be looked at like that. So there's a product he's selling today, very distinct product. It's a limited run. And 50 years from now, what do you think a pair of these sneakers in prime condition might be worth? Why isn't that a good investment? It might be.
No, yeah. That's the only thing that you'll never see anybody wearing them. They'll all be left in the box.
They're all going to try to keep them as collectors.
Like they're Michael Jordans.
Right. So first off, I didn't understand why the sentence was in there, period. And then I completely disagree with it.
Not intended for probably just to get him out of any hot water. You know, the 1,500 lawyers felt like they had to make their money and put something in there. You know, just in case down the line somebody sues them. You know, people sue you for anything nowadays, as you know.
Look, there was a time when Pokemon cards were actually a good investment.
What were?
Pokemon cards.
Oh man, oh my God, don't even start with that. Yeah, I guess we didn't have any of the real good ones, but my girlfriend's sister, who's mental, was saving Pokemon cards, but I didn't see any of the good ones there. But she must have had boxes and boxes of them.
Ultimately, you could have lost a whole lot of money too, because at one point they were super hot and then they weren't anymore. But how about baseball cards? Baseball cards have been
baseball cards are still
absolutely right. So why
some of them are still really good.
I don't know why you would make the statement that this isn't suitable for investment purposes. It certainly could be.
It just it certainly could be interesting. I don't know how much the shoes are, but it'll be interesting if it's like me custom the Bitcoin and Apple stock, you know, I won't be alive in 50 years, but if I were, I could have bought those stupid Trump shoes for $250 or whatever they are. How much were they? Do you have any idea? Did you look it up?
No clue. I never even bothered to go look because I don't care. I just thought it was odd that that was in the commercial. Right.
It is odd, but you know, as much as you hate gold too, I sent you that thing about, you know, and I had another comment on the warehouses. Now, those warehouses that those guys built 3 years ago, you know, if they went to build them now, they're going to be at least 23% more to build those warehouses than they were 3 years ago. And so I'm pretty sure they had that in the, you know, on their bingo card too.
Well, maybe, but here's the problem. If you're sitting on, you know, millions of square foot of warehouse space because you thought you built it cheap, you didn't. All those savings are wiped out by sitting on that giant asset that's not generating any revenue.
Yeah. I don't know how much those cost to build. If you haven't been north of Las Vegas, between Las Vegas and Highway 93 going north at that Love's truck stop, that whole thing is huge tilt-up warehouses now.
So, you know, the real estate market, like, you know, we're complaining about analysts not being able to predict anything accurately, but just think about some of the problems that have always existed, but how bad they've been in the last couple of years. Remember all the talk about, oh my God, the entire commercial real estate market is going to collapse because everybody's working at home.
Right.
That was office space. Well, now we're looking at all this warehouse space that we have excess, it seems like, everywhere. Well, if we have and then do you realize that depending on how you look at this statistic, less than 1% of the federal government works full time in a physical location?
Yeah, I do. I told you that a couple of weeks ago. I said 6%, but that was counting janitors and
right.
security guards.
Take those out, and it gets down to like 1%. Well, the federal government also owns an incredible amount of office space, so it's just sitting empty, doing nothing. We have all that office space doing nothing. We have the people who did actually shift to work at home. Not all of them are going back. And then we have this warehouse thing. Why hasn't commercial real estate just collapsed? You almost think it would based on some of these numbers.
Off the numbers, it sort of has to be right on the bubble, except that the guys that own the commercial real estate are the BlackRocks and
they can
those
sit on
guys
it, I
that
guess,
have more money than God. So maybe they're just, you know what I mean? Maybe it's worse than we think, but they're just trying to ride it out.
They don't have more money than Elon. They might have more money than God, but they don't have more money than Elon.
Yeah. Oh, man, if Elon's money looks like a hairball to BlackRock. You know what I mean?
Well, as a fund,
so there's
right?
That. Yeah. What do they have? What do they have over 60 trillion?
I don't know.
Is that what BlackRock has?
I don't.
It's
you know,
a
when
huge
numbers
amount.
get that big, my brain won't even register them properly.
Yeah, it's sickening.
I know.
I wanted to well okay. I know you. I'm probably your last guy.
No, you're not.
The lemon.
That's all right.
The
Go
guy
ahead
had
anyway.
okay. Well, you get them. The guy with the lemon. Have you seen those little plastic things with lemon juice in them? 100% lemon juice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why can't I just use those things?
You can.
Yeah, no sugar added.
No, I'm fine. That's nothing
lemon,
but
right?
pure lemon juice. And lemon juice doesn't need preservatives or anything else because it's so acidic. It is a preservative. So no, those squeeze bottles are just fine, both lemon and lime. Here's the thing I would say, just to be on the safe side, always make sure you look at the ingredient list. I don't know when somebody's going to squeeze, somebody's going to put some cheap plastic lemon on the market that has a bunch of garbage in it. But every one I've ever seen is just pure lemon juice is all they are.
Yeah, and then speaking of I did see a lady on it was on one of my podcasts, listened to her, and you know the microplastics. One of the biggest offenders is when we heat things up in the microwave in plastic.
No, I guess we could say, and I've never thought about it. And the reason I haven't thought about it is because I typically don't use those squeeze bottles because it's just as easy to buy a real lemon or lime, but I get it in the truck. I hadn't thought about the plastic issue. And, you know, with a really acidic product, is that acid attacking the plastic and causing, could be. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, that might be an issue. It might be an issue, but you know what I mean. You got to pick your poison.
I know,
what's
you really
going to be
do.
the processed food,
right?
Or I'm gonna go with microplastics as my preferred poison for probably the rest of my life because I don't think I can get away from that, but I can get away from the processed food.
Exactly. Right.
You know.
Right.
Which I've been really good on.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
All right. Talk to you soon. Let's go to Illinois. Sarah, welcome.
Hey, I had a thought for the caller about the diverticulitis. That book I recommended last week, Restoring Your Digestive Health, that might be a good protocol for him to look at, and they include a section on both diverticulitis and diverticulosis in the specific disorder in the 10th chapter. And it's only 6 hours. You know, put it on 1.5 times, 1.34 times. You can listen to it in a driving shift.
And that
while you're driving back home to get to your appointment with your doctor.
Yeah, that was the one. Restoring Digestive Health was the title, right?
Yes, and I did post it on Healthy Tribe last Wednesday.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, that's a good idea.
And
In fact,
if we want, I was going to say, if we want to get a doctor on for that, better than Joseph the heart doctor would be the gastroenterologist who does Ultron-Heal.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. That's a good idea.
Because he studies that area specifically.
Yeah.
And then on a completely different tangent, those gold sneaker shoe commercials have been running for like the past 5 or 6 months.
Well, see,
and they added the watches like a month before the election, and the fragrances just since the election. But when they added just recently, maybe 1 to 2 months ago, they added the line not intended for investment. It made me the thought that hit me immediately when I noticed that they added that line was reverse psychology.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe it's just a big marketing, because it's not
intended.
As soon as I heard it, I thought that's an odd line to put in that commercial. Why did they do that? But I didn't know that these things have been running for 5 or 6 months because I haven't been listening to Fox.
Yeah, well, you're not putting as many miles on the road as some of us these days.
Well, exactly. Well, as soon as I was on the road, I thought, all right, might as well turn on Fox so I can hear the news. I was really kind of interested, and I knew nothing much was going to happen over the weekend on the Daniel Penny case, but
I'm so glad to hear that he was acquitted.
I know, me too. I've been watching that one close, and if he would have gotten any jail time whatsoever, even if he would have gotten a conviction with no jail time, I still would have been furious over it. But if he would have served any jail time, that would have been a tragedy.
I agree.
I can't even believe he was ever tried for this.
Right.
I know.
It's very frustrating to watch things like somebody standing up, for not only self-defense, but standing up for other people.
Exactly. Look, this would have been a different story had it been a conflict between these two. You know, these two get on the subway, they get into a verbal argument, it turns into a fight, and then this happens. That is not what happened here, not even close. So he should have never been tried for this. Hey, there's another weird story in the news. I'm wondering if you've been following. What you think?
What's that?
These drones the size of cars over New Jersey that nobody can figure out where they're coming from. Have you seen that one?
I just heard seen it? No, but I just heard about the size last night, the size of cars. Who but another government has the funds to do that?
Or
either our government or another government.
Right, our government but here's the other thing I can't imagine. This has not only been going on for weeks in New Jersey. It turns out this was going on in D.C. a year ago. I don't remember anybody talking about that. It was going on someplace else. I don't remember any stories like this. But here's what I don't understand. How can there be dozens of these sightings in New Jersey and we can't figure out where they're coming from? I thought we knew everything that was in the sky. Don't these things have to have some sort of transponder signal?
I would think so. If they're droned and they're not manned, they have to be controlled by some sort.
And I thought about getting into the whole drone thing at one time, and then I decided I don't have time for it. But I had a friend here one time for a party, and at the time they had a pretty high-end drone, and they went to launch it from our house, and it wouldn't launch.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't launch because we have a tiny little airfield real close to us. And but somehow the guy who owned the drone said, "Oh, I can't fly it until I get a code." And he had to call somebody and get clearance, and he put a code into the drone, and then he could fly it. And I'm thinking, boy, they have an awful lot of control over these drones, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if they have so much control over them, how can we have all these sightings and not know where they're coming from or who owns them?
Well, I think somebody does know who owns them and where they're coming from. They don't want to say.
That must be.
because you have to have clearances to fly, especially something as big as a car.
And we're flying them. All of these are occurring over either military bases or in New Jersey, it was actually over Trump's golf course at Bedminster.
Golf course.
Right. These are sensitive areas. That's our president-elect. So it's
in
over
D.C. If you say that happened
right.
a year ago in D.C.
And it was over military installations there too. Well, how can we not know, and why after all this time have we not figured out? Or like you said, they do know and they're just not going to tell us.
It's probably our own FBI flying them. Who knows?
Yeah, well, maybe Cash will fix that.
Yes, we'll see.
Yeah.
We're saying prayers for everybody's success in their endeavors.
I know. I agree.
All right, you have a good day, Kevin.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for the call. All right, we're going to take one more call and we're going to wrap this up. Looks like right on time today. Let's go to Missouri. Gerald, what's on your mind?
Hey, Kevin, how's it going, man?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Well, I was looking at the Trump sneakers on eBay, and right now there's a couple of pair going for like $2,500, and that's a bid.
So it sounds to me like they might be excellent. Well, now I'm going to say this. This is no different to me than cryptocurrencies or other investments. The average person should not be investing in this kind of stuff. Now, when I say investing, I mean in your, investment plan, portfolio, retirement accounts. Now, if you've got all that taken care of, and then you just have some money you want to play around with, well, sure, go do stuff like this. I don't care. But it shouldn't be a serious part of your investment portfolio. But something like this could end up, for a lot of people, bringing crazy returns.
Yeah, crazy. Talking about the Hawk Tour girl, what would that stop you from having a Let's Truck crypto coin?
Nothing.
I wonder how that would be.
Nothing. I could go do that.
Right.
But the problem would be I'd never be able to sell it, because I'd have to tell everybody that wanted to buy it, no, don't buy this. It's a bad investment.
That's right. And people took their life savings to buy into that myth, into her thing, and
unbelievable.
She could go to jail over that, which she should.
I know, unbelievable.
But Kevin, you was talking a while back about depression. Like treat that differently than like your kidneys and heart or whatever.
Right.
Well, like I lost my wife last year in a vehicle accident, and like an hour before, everything was just a normal day. We'd walked But for a while that was very depressive on me, but then they put me on medicine. I woke up one morning, I was like, what the hell am I doing taking this stuff for? It's not going to help. And then I just started making the day better, and
well, you bring up another good point.
I didn't let it control me.
Right.
Didn't let it control me.
You bring up another good point, and I should address this. We could be completely healthy. We could have a really clean diet. We could have great digestion. We could have very balanced gut bacteria. Our moods could be good. Our emotions are completely under control. But if you suffer something like you went through, this is a totally different issue. You are going to be an emotional wreck over this. I mean, that is, and to me, that is not any kind of a malfunction. Whereas I look at somebody who is just chronically depressed for no apparent reason, or they are going back and forth between depression and anxiety, which seems to be really common, and there's no apparent reason. That's where we're looking at gut bacteria messed up and neurotransmitters. What you experienced, that to me is what should have happened. That's how our emotions work. And it's no fun. It's very unpleasant. It's difficult, but drugs aren't the answer. And I don't see that as a malfunction. I see that as that's how our emotions are supposed to work.
Right. Not just, oh, well, I feel bad because I'm in bad shape. I can't walk,
right,
or
right.
that I'm in, chronic pain and all the time. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. No, this is that is the emotional response we would hope to have. Now, I'm sorry you had to go through it, but and yeah, I've been through it. I've lost people very close to me. That to me, when you are depressed or sad from that to me is a good sign. That's how your emotions are supposed to work.
Yes, sir.
And I know
Yeah,
it's
and then
hard.
I've got,
Right.
and then I'm actually tell you this, next month I'm going out to Colorado to a all blind school. So I'm really looking forward of having a big opportunity that was presented to me. So
Wow.
that's exciting. Got some groovy, cool stuff happening.
Yeah. Well, make sure you call us and report on that. I want to know how it goes.
Oh yeah, I will. Yep.
Fantastic.
It's up in Colorado too, so you never know. You may run into Bruce.
There you go.
You never know.
That's right.
Yep. All right,
Joe.
Kevin. Well, you have a good day, and I'll listen to you throughout the week, my man.
Sounds great. Good talking to you. All right. Boy, look at that. We are quitting right on time today. It almost never happens. We will see you back here tomorrow for the Power Hour. I'm pretty sure I'm here all week this week. I think we've got 5 shows for this week. So plenty more coming. We'll see you then. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.